Chapter 11, An Ominous Sign Comes. I came home and shuffled around a bit, then surveyed the white bone ghost sign. The white bone ghost sign was icy cold, like holding a piece of cold ice, with heavy evil power. This half-palm-sized ghost sign had been sacrificed with the blood and souls of many children, and holding it in my hand, I could even faintly hear the wronged souls screaming. I whispered in my mind, "Poor children, I hope you won't have to endure these tortures in the afterlife." This white bone ghost sign is a holy weapon to evil demons, but it is of little use to me. Since this thing had already fallen into my hands, it was naturally impossible to let it continue to flow out and harm people. I lifted my pen and drew a sealing spell on the ghost sign, then pressed it into the spell altar. When the 79 days have passed, the ghost cards will naturally turn to ashes. After dealing with the white bone ghost sign, I took the gourd out. Uncorking the gourd, he recited an unsealing incantation and poured out the flowers. Hannah landed on the ground, let out a scream, and lunged right at me, yelling, "What did you do to my mom? You give my mom back to me. Asshole!" I let out a fierce shout, and Hannah's body stiffened and stood still, not daring to move. I looked at her and said indifferently, "I'm only keeping you alive because you haven't harmed anyone yet. If you don't know what's good for you, I'll beat your soul to death right now." Hannah was so intimidated by me that she didn't dare to say a word. My tone eased slightly as I said slowly, "Zoran is not your mom. Zoran is a bad person. You were supposed to go to hell to reincarnate as a human being. It was Zwilling who captured and enslaved you, making you help her do evil things to harm people. Zwilling has already been punished as she deserves." Blossom curled up, her body shivering, a dazed look on her face. She had no memory of any of these things. "God has a good life. It's a blessing for you that you met me, so I'll give you a hand," I said. I took 2 pieces of yellow paper and lit them on fire and threw them on the ground, then recited the overpassing mantra, the supreme edict, overpassing your lonely souls, ghosts and demons all. The 4 lives are stained with grace. Those who have a head are overpassed, and those who do not have a head are ascended. As I recited the overcoming mantra, a golden light began to fill Hannah's body. A few minutes later, her body was completely wrapped in golden light. At this time, from the top of her head there were wisps of gray gas rushing up, and those gray gases were the very same grievances, evil gases, and fury gases that had stained her body. People come into this world clean and go to reincarnation must also go clean, otherwise they can't go to hell to reincarnate. It didn't take long for the golden light enveloping Hannah to dissipate. Hua slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were clear and there was no longer the slightest bit of resentment. "Mage, thank you." Hua cried and knelt in front of me to say thank you. Her memory had returned and she knew how Zwilling had treated her. I waved my hand at her and said, "Ashes to ashes, earth to earth, all the things of this life have already gone with the wind, so hurry up and report to hell, don't delay." Hannah cried and thanked me again before leaving. Having transcended Hannah, a force of merit fell upon me in the underworld. The power of merit is derived from good works, and it aids my practice. I dismissed the distractions in my mind and began meditating and practicing to do my homework. This house. Cultivating in this mansion, I obviously feel that it is much faster than other places, allowing me to have twice the result with half the effort. 2 days passed in a flash. I stayed home for the past 2 days and didn't go out, and no one came to me to deal with the netherworld. I had the $10,000 I had earned from Yan Mengyun in my hand, and I wasn't anxious about not having customers looking for me. On the evening of the 3rd day, I was just sitting in the house eating dinner when suddenly there was a muffled clap of thunder, very loud, but no rain. I put down my dishes and looked out the window, my brow furrowing involuntarily. I don't know how, but the thunder suddenly gave me an ominous feeling in my heart, as if something bad was going to happen. I felt the fortune in my pocket and resisted the urge to divine for myself. My mom told me about the many taboos of fortune telling, not counting dead people, not counting peers, not counting myself. There is an even more poisonous saying, that is, counting on others does not count on oneself, counting on oneself dies, without a doubt. At this point I certainly couldn't take the chance, except to wonder in my mind what might happen to me. Almost instantly I thought of something, looked out the window at the darkness of the night, and muttered to myself, "Is it you who's going to take a shot at me? Come on, I'd love to see what you're capable of, to see if you're stronger, or if I'm stronger." The person I'm talking about is none other than Zoran's owner. It's been so many days, counting the time it's about time for that guy to make his move. The incident didn't affect my state of mind, so I ate dinner, did some homework, and then went to bed. In the middle of the night. Ding 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 ding. A wind chime suddenly sounded. I woke up instantly, a cold glint in my eyes. I whispered, "You're finally here." The wind chimes are the ones I hang under the eaves of my house to give me advance warning whenever something unclean comes near my house. This wind chime is made in a very special way, so its ringing sound cannot be heard by ordinary people at all. I sat up quietly from the bed and reached through the pillow. At that moment a figure appeared in the darkness not far from my house. In his hand he held an oil lamp burning a green flame, and the flame burning in the oil lamp was a ghost fire, a miserable, frightening green. The man's complexion was shadowy as he looked in the direction of my house, and said grimly, "Damn little mage, how dare you go against me, let's see how I'll get you killed." As the words fell, the man blew into the ghost lamp in his hand, and immediately a figure floated out of it. It was a dry, thin man with a greenish face and a hideous expression that looked extraordinarily evil. The dry and thin man knelt down on both knees and said respectfully, "My lord, may I ask what your orders are?" The black shadow commanded, "Ghost Ugly, go into that house and bring me that kid's soul. You must complete the mission or I will destroy you." "Please don't worry, my lord, I will fulfill my mission." Ghost Ugly was full of confidence, and rolled up a cloudy wind and disappeared. The black shadow Gia laughed strangely, "Little mage, when I say I'll use your head as a wine vessel, then I'll definitely do what I say. I'm not only going to use your head as a drinking vessel, I'm going to eat your soul. Just wait for fear to strike, ha ha ha." Bang, bang, bang. There was a knock on my front door. There was a sharp knock on the door, as if it was a matter of great urgency. I raised my eyelids slightly and didn't make a sound. The knocking stopped after a few beats, and there was silence. The person knocking seemed to have left, however. After a few seconds. Squeak. The front door of my house was pushed open. Chapter 12, Evil Ghosts Kill. When I heard the commotion outside, I furrowed my brows furiously and gripped the copper sword in my hand. Phew. A cloudy wind blew in and the temperature in the room just plummeted. It gives the feeling as if it's a cold winter month all of a sudden. What a strong ghostly aura. Feeling the change, I was slightly startled. Tada. Tada. Da-da-da-da. Footsteps rattled through the house as something came in looking for the room I was staying in. Soon. The footsteps stopped in front of my room door. Although I couldn't see outside the door, I was able to feel that a pair of extremely malevolent eyes were staring at the door of my room at this very moment. I held my breath and quietly put an invisibility charm on me to cover my scent. There was silence at the door for 5 or 6 seconds, and then boom boom boom. That guy was knocking on my room door. It doesn't just barge in, it knocks on the door. It was definitely intentional, just to add to my mental stress. I stared intently at the doorway of the room, gripped my copper sword tightly, and said nothing. Soon, a raspy voice rang out of the door. "Young man, open the door, I'm your grandfather." I was furious when I heard that. Almost cursed, "I'm your grandfather." I remained silent. That thing yelled outside for a while. Maybe it was because I was ignoring it and it wasn't shouting enough, so it stopped. There was no movement outside the door of the room again, a dead silence. Did that guy just leave? I had this thought in my mind, and I was thinking of giving it a big surprise when it came charging in. It's just not enough to go off like that, isn't it? Suddenly, a sorrowful voice sounded behind me. "Young man, are you looking for me?" The sound rang out very suddenly, there was no movement at all beforehand, and there was not a hint of mental preparation in my heart when I suddenly heard the voice. My heart skipped a beat and goosebumps instantly filled my body, startling me. At this point, there is only one word to express how I feel inside, and that is, me, grass. Without even thinking, my body immediately rolled forward and jumped off the bed. Looking back, there was a man crouching in the corner position of the bed. To be precise, it was a ghost. The guy's body was dried out and his skin was so wrinkled that he looked like a corpse with sun-dried moisture. He was scowling, a glare enveloping his face and pulling his horror value full. When the ghost saw me looking over, he grinned a silent grin at me, and as he grinned, his appearance looked even more frightening. I looked hard at the ugly male ghost, anger burning in my eyes. I don't know how the damn thing got in, how it came behind me without a sound. But I knew that this thing had to die. I've sensed his mana, its ghost spirit level, it's no match for me. Ghost Ugly grinned at me and spoke wordlessly. I could tell by the shape of his mouth what he was saying. He said I deserved to die. I was just about to make a sound when he actually disappeared in front of me again without a sound. It was at this instant that I felt a chill coming from behind me. I didn't even think about it, and my copper sword stabbed directly behind me. Ding! My copper sword stabbed into something. There was a scream immediately afterward. I looked back. An evil spirit was nailed to the ground by me. The evil spirit wasn't the one from earlier, but a younger one. He fell to the ground howling in agony as I nailed a hole through his chest. A cold glint flashed in my eye. More than one evil spirit had come in. In this instant, I also realized how that evil spirit had just touched behind Might's a soundbite tactic. Die! I chided. Flexing his fingers, a copper coin shot out and instantly pierced through the evil spirit's brow. The evil spirit turned into black smoke, and his soul flew away and disappeared without a trace. Once again the room fell silent. The ugly ghost from earlier is gone. He's hiding. I whispered in my heart, the ghostly light in my eyes flickering as I used the power of my spirit pupil's eye to patrol the room for signs of the evil spirit. Soon. I then saw a figure flash before my eyes. He moved so fast, he was gone in a second. This speed made my eyelids flutter furiously. This speed is not something that a ghostly spirit-level evil spirit can have. I pretended I couldn't spot him and drank in a deep voice. I guess you ghosts are also under the orders of others. Aren't you coming to kill me? Get out, you can't kill me by hiding. The first time I saw that evil spirit, I knew he wasn't the real culprit behind it, a punching bag at best, and supposedly a brat raised by the real culprit behind the scenes. This situation makes me secretly vigilant. The real culprit behind the scene is very cautious, actually not show up yet. Is this a test for me? It is the cautious, calm enemy who is the most feared person, the kind who will deal me a fatal blow at the right time. The evil spirit still hadn't shown up and was still running around the room, and he was looking for the right moment to strike. I always pretended that I didn't see him, mouthing something inoffensive, when in fact I was watching his trail. 2 minutes later. The corner of my mouth curled into a sneer. I've got the trail of the evil spirit. So. The next thing you know, it's time for him to die. If you don't come out again, then don't blame me for not being polite. I let out a yell of feigned anger and hit a yellow talisman in the palm of my hand that held the copper sword. The evil spirit still hasn't moved. He's still changing positions, quickly. For so long, he couldn't find the right opportunity to strike. Go to hell. The cold light in my eyes suddenly skyrocketed and, with a sharp shake of his hand, the copper sword flew and shot towards a place. There was also a yellow talisman attached to the copper sword, which added to its power. Ah! The evil spirit showed up, hissing and screaming, with terror in its eyes. I stabbed this sword exactly where he was. I struck very suddenly, and so fast and furious that I didn't give him a chance to dodge. Ghost Ugly had no way to escape, and could only watch as the copper coin sword nailed through his chest, pinning him to the wall. I coldly walked up to him and snapped. Why don't you keep running away? Why don't you run away? Since you can see through my stealth? Ghost Ugly asked, screaming. His mana was at the level of a ghost spirit, but his stealth was very skillful, a notch higher than ghosts of the same rank, and he used stealth to harm people repeatedly. He thought I wouldn't be able to see him, but I didn't think I'd be able to see through him after all. I snorted coldly and said disdainfully, even a brat like you wants to be invisible in front of me, delusional. The 9 spectral eyes that I cultivate are the number 1 ranked alien eyes, so I'm not surprised to see him at all. Say, who sent you? Be honest or you'll be treated badly. I asked drily. Chapter 13, Hunting the Black Fox. This evil spirit is ferocious, and he will not be easily accounted for. But he couldn't withstand my torture and soon gave a full account. Black Fox, you're looking for death. The cold light in my eyes was thick with killing intent. The person who wants to kill me is none other than the guy nicknamed Black Fox, who raised all these evil spirits. Instead of killing Ghost Ugly immediately, I nailed him to the ground with a French stick. Ghost Clown is a brat raised by the Black Fox. If I kill Ghost Clown, the Black Fox will be the first to notice. Tonight the Black Fox came at me with a murderous intent, and tried to use my head as a wine vessel and my soul to light the heavenly lantern. It's not polite to come but not to go. If I don't give him a gift back, how can I afford to raise an army like him? A plan to kill back instantly formed in my mind. I changed my clothes, grabbed my guy, and quietly slipped out of the house. From Ghost Ugly, I have already grasped the exact location of the Black Fox, so I will just kill it directly. Black Fox was sitting in the corner drinking at the moment, and he didn't hide his trail at all. Black Fox was very confident that with Ghost Ugly on board, he would be able to finish me off. He had a lot of faith in Ghost Ugly's skills, that stealth and speed left many mages of the same rank in the dust. Damn little scumbag, dare to go against me, I won't get you killed. Black Fox took a sip of his drink and cursed under his breath. Black Fox has been living a good life for the past few years, raising a group of brats under him and controlling a bunch of people to work for him. He can have whatever he wants and has no enemies, and it's simply faster than living God to be bored. The result. Because of my presence, his nourishing life began to be unnourishing. I killed his ghost boy and knocked out his ghost servant, causing him to lose a lot of money. In his mind, it was not only a matter of his heavy losses, but also a provocation of a kind of authority. How can such things be tolerated? I must be dealt with in the most ruthless and severe manner. He wanted to show me that going against him, Black Fox, didn't end well. I came over just in time to hear Black Fox cursing there. A ghostly light flickered in my eyes. I composed myself and did not strike first. I watched the Black Fox and worked out the best plan for a counter-kill. Judging from the aura emanating from the Black Fox, this guy is also a yellow rank mage, with a higher segment than me, probably around the 7th segment. That result made me skim. This Black Fox is at least 60 years old, cultivated for so many years, or 7 paragraphs of yellow rank mage. I am ashamed for him, so many years have been cultivated to the dog. Soon my attention fell on the oil lamp with a ghostly flame beside him. Good Lord, it's a ghost lamp, and there are a lot of little ghosts raised in that lamp. I stared at the ghostly lights and whispered. Under my spiritual pupil's eye, there were at least a dozen ghosts in the body of the ghost lamp. A good portion of them were children, the youngest being as young as 3 or 4 years old. There was no doubt that those ghosts were all collected into the ghost lamp by the Black Fox, and their purpose was to drive those ghosts to work for him. Those ghostly creatures had lost their nature under his enslavement, and each of them had become ferocious to the extreme, with only killing and bloodlust in their eyes. This Black Fox is a ghost breeder, a professional ghost breeder, specializing in crooked stuff. After scoping out the Black Fox, I was ready to make my move. My plan was simple: first knock out the Black Fox's ghost light. A large part of Black Fox's ability lies in the ghost lamp, and as long as the ghost lamp is knocked out, he is a lamb to be slaughtered. Although he is a 7th Dan, 2 Dan higher than me, his Dao is not as good as mine. I felt around in my bag and quickly found a square piece of iron. This thing is an old scale that I used to press yellow paper and yellow talismans. At this point, I'm going to use this old scale to break the Black Fox's ghost light. I cut open my finger and drew a ghost-killing charm on the scale with my blood. Immediately after that, another ghost-quelling talisman was affixed to the scale. Finally, with his right hand and sword fingers, he cast a spell in the air above the scales. I found a good angle, counted 3 in my mind, and then slammed the scale into the ghost light. Black Fox wine drink is cool it, in his heart also think I'm dead, where would have thought I would suddenly sneak attack. He didn't have the slightest defense, and my scale struck his ghostly lamp with unerring accuracy. The body of the ghost lamp was an ordinary oil lamp, and it snapped and smashed. The ghost sealed and the ghost lamp screamed and tried to run out, and that's when my ghost suppressor talisman came into play. The talisman light flashed and swooshed around, sealing those ghosts. The scales were augmented by my blood, which super doubled the power of the ghost-quelling talisman and instantly took control of the situation. The ghost lamp was shattered by me, and only then did Black Fox react, his drunken eyes regaining their clarity. Glancing down at the shattered ghostly lamp, he then looked menacingly out into the blackness and growled. "Which bastard sneaked up on me? Are you tired of living? Get the fuck out of here. I'm going to skin you and whip you. I want you to beg for your life, and I want you to beg for your death." "Heh, that's quite a mouthful," I sneered, stepping out of the darkness. The Black Fox first stared at me when he saw me, followed by a frown, and a glance behind me. There's no one behind me, and no ghosts. The Black Fox's complexion was suddenly gloomy, and he asked with an ironic face. "Kid, why are you here? Where's my ghost servant?" At this moment, Black Fox was forcing himself to be calm. There was a strong uneasiness within. He calculated that I would be killed by his ghostly clown, but he didn't expect me to appear before him. It was the opposite dynamic from what he had planned. He's no fool. Since I'm not dead, it must be Ghost Ugly who's dead. His heart was full of doubts. In his perception, the Ghost Ugly is obviously still alive. "Black Fox, how do you want to die?" I naturally wouldn't answer Black Fox's question, but asked indifferently. Black Fox's pupils tightened and he asked with a dark face. "Kid, your realm isn't as good as mine, you're no match for me. Just you want to kill me, delusional," I heckled. Can the realm represent the level of Taoism? Seeing me so calm, Black Fox was not calm anymore, and began to doubt in his mind. He scrutinized me carefully and asked in a hushed voice. "Kid, are you a Maoshan disciple?" My eyes flickered. There was no answer, no idea why he would ask. "Can't be wrong, you're a Maoshan disciple, I recognize that scent on you. You cultivate Maoshan Taoism, and I hate Maoshan's Nubizi the most." The Black Fox roared at me, his eyes turning crimson. Apparently, he had suffered losses at the hands of Maoshan disciples. There was a flash of color in my eyes, and look at how excited Black Fox is, as if he's telling the truth. My mom taught me the Tao of Maoshan? As far as I can remember, my mom told me a lot about Maoshan. But she never told me about Maoshan Taoism, and I've never seen what it looks like. So, I don't know if what I practice is Maoshan Taoism or not. This matter doesn't matter to me, it doesn't matter which Tao I practice, what matters is that I have the ability to do it. I looked at Black Fox with cold eyes and said indifferently. "Black Fox, you dare to send evil spirits to kill me, you deserve to die. Say. Will you finish it yourself, or shall I do it?" Chapter 14, Dissolving into Pus. My words were full of dominance and unquestioning, not giving Black Fox the slightest bit of room to bargain. "Did you finish it yourself? Or do I have to do it? This is not unnecessary lip service on my part, but I have real skills to do this." Black Fox was accustomed to ordering others around on a regular basis. When had anyone ever dared to heckle so much in front of him? His eyes widened at once, and flames spewed out of his gaze as he looked at me. Angrily, he roared, "Arrogant thing, when was it your turn to clamor in front of me? You still want to kill me, dream on." With that, Black Fox fished out a black flag from his sleeve. With a fierce wave, a ghostly aura erupted from the flag. The ghostly aura rolled around, and within it was a female ghost in red robes. The female ghost screamed and probed her white, ghostly claws, cloaked and clawing at me. A huge ghostly aura filled the air as the female ghost killed. The dust on the ground was swept up. My eyes narrowed slightly, unmoved. This female ghost was something I didn't anticipate, but everything was under control. The female ghost's mana didn't go beyond the ghost spirit level, and she wasn't a match for me after all. By the time the female ghost pounced on me, I bellowed. Die. I didn't use any powerful magic weapon, but waved my hand and slapped a yellow talisman. Ghost-killing talisman. The best quality yellow rank talisman I currently have in my hands. The female ghost pounced swiftly, rushing to me with lightning speed. And I struck fast as thunder. We were on pins and needles, and neither one of us would let the other go. The female ghost had been trained by Black Fox to become an evil ghost that only knew how to kill, completely devoid of her own thinking and judgment. She had no idea how strong the ghost-killing talisman in my hand was, and rushed over to fuck with me. At this point, if it were any other evil spirits, sensing the danger, they might have dodged. Black Fox, on the contrary, sensed that something was wrong. Eyelids fluttering wildly, he screamed at the top of his lungs. "Get out of the way, stupid!" He hurriedly waved the black flag, trying to maneuver the female ghost to avoid it. Unfortunately, he doesn't stand a chance. My ghost-killing talisman had slapped the female ghost. Snap! The ghost-killing talisman runic light blossomed, golden light overflowed, and yang qi erupted in an instant. The female ghost was drowned in it. Pissed. Almost instantly, the female ghost's body was directly blown up by my ghost-killing talisman, instantly scattering her soul. I stood proudly and looked at Black Fox and chided him. "Black Fox, do you still have evil spirits in your hands to help you fight?" Black Fox reached into his pocket and felt around. It was empty. He looked down at the ghost lights again. "The ghost lamps have already been broken by me, and all the evil spirits in there have been sealed by me. It would take him at least 5 minutes to break my seal. And there was no way I was going to give him time to break the seal." Tic-tac. Cold sweat fell from Black Fox's forehead. He was a ghost breeder, and all of his skills were in the ghosts he raised. His own battle value was extremely low. Now that all the ghosts in his body have been broken by me, what else can he fight with me? Black Fox looked at me with colorful eyes roaring and screaming. "Kid, I don't kill nameless people, if you have the guts to report your name." I grunted. "How dare you speak up even at the end of your life? Remember your grandfather's name. My name is Ding Lin." Black Fox did a quick search in his head. He was certain that the name Ting Lin was not in his memory. Black Fox barked at me. "Ding Lin, do you know what I am? Do you know who I have behind me? If you dare to kill me, the forces behind me won't spare you, and you'll die a miserable death." My eyelids drooped slightly as I trailed off. "I'm not interested in who's behind you. And I don't care who's behind you. If you dare to kill me, then be prepared to be killed by me. Tonight, you will surely die." When Black Fox saw my stance, he knew there was no way he could scare me. He roared, and began to announce himself. "Ding Lin, listen to me clearly. Behind me is the ghost-raising sect. If you dare to kill me, the ghost-raising sect won't let you go, and will inevitably go on and on with you." I snorted. "Heh. Raise the ghost gate? That sounds so scary. It's just a third-rate evil force that can't even be considered third-rate. How dare you bring it out to scare me? It's simply disgraceful and ridiculous." I didn't bother to talk to Black Fox anymore, and took a step toward him, coldly saying, "Heaven's justice is clear, and those who come out of the woodwork will have to pay back sooner or later. You've harmed people to my head. If you don't die, who will?" The Black Fox's face changed color for a moment when he saw me getting closer and closer. Finally snapping his teeth, he snarled at me. "Ding Lin, don't be arrogant. Even if you want to kill me, I'll drag you on my back." The words fell. The Black Fox stomped his foot and growled, lunging at me frantically. A cold glint flashed in my eyes. I haven't forgotten about Zhuo Ling taking something highly poisonous and corrupting her body before. There must be something else like this highly poisonous in the black fox, and there's no way I'm letting him near me. I waved my hand violently and a red cord flew out of my sleeve. The red rope, driven by the 5 emperors' money, flew towards the black fox's neck and curled up. Snap! The red rope curled around the black fox's neck. I gave it a sharp shake, then a pull and a swing, and in an instant, the black fox's body was thrown off. The moment the black fox's body was flung away from Mei let out a fierce scream, "Ding Lin, give me a burial." Black Fox swung hard and a handful of black powder flew out of his hand. The black powder emitted a strong stench and drifted toward me quickly. My heart skipped a beat when I saw that thing. A feeling of extreme unease filled me. A voice instantly resounded in my mind, "I can't let that powder get close enough to get on me." Yin and Yang umbrella. I'm drinking heavily. Backhanding a paper umbrella behind me, he opened it, completely covering me under it. Black powder drifted down, all covered by my Yin and Yang umbrella. This Yin and Yang umbrella was not a normal paper umbrella, but was made with special paper that had the power to isolate the Yin and Yang aura. When that black powder landed on the Yin Yang umbrella, the umbrella made a snorting sound. Along with the snorting sound, there was green smoke coming out of the umbrella. That thing is rapidly corrupting my Yin and Yang umbrella, and it's terribly powerful. When Black Fox saw this, he was disappointed. And he's thinking of corrupting me that way. Give it back. I'm drinking heavily. Rushing to the Black Fox, he violently shook his Yin and Yang umbrella, and all the powder on the Yin and Yang umbrella fell on the Black Fox. Ah! No! The Black Fox let out a heartbreaking scream. His flesh and blood body was quickly corroded and melted by that powder, and soon huge holes appeared on his body where white bones and internal organs could be seen. The situation gave me palpitations, too. So corrosive. What a strong poison. The Black Fox fell to the ground and rolled around screaming and snarling viciously. Ding Lin, wait for me, the ghost-raising sect will definitely avenge me. I snorted in disdain. Revenge? Come on. Who's afraid of who? Not even a minute later, the Black Fox was no more, directly transformed into pus by his poison, with not a single scrap of bone left. I looked at the shade umbrella, which had also been reduced to ashes, and a pang of physical pain ran through me. There's no way I can make such a magic weapon for a short time. I cleaned up the scene and left. The next day at noon, my doorbell was rung. I opened the door to a thin, hunchbacked middle-aged man. When I saw him, my pupils clenched. The moment I opened the door, a child was lying on his back. When the kid saw me, he screamed, rolled up a gale and fled. Chapter 15, The Nightmare of the Body Snatcher. I frowned at the sight of the escaped child. The kid was a little ghost. I scared him away. As the brat fled, the man felt his back relax and his hunched back straightened considerably. I swept the man away, a strange color in my eyes. This man has such a strong ghost and corpse aura, he's met a big powerful guy recently. The man sizes me up for a second. A look of disappointment appeared on his face. What's the matter with you? I asked without moving. The man was about to leave, took a step and then stopped and looked at me and asked. Little brother, may I ask if you are Mage Ding Lin? I was introduced to you by a friend of Ms. Yang's, who said you would cure evil. Exactly. I nodded. The Miss Yang this man is talking about should be Yang Mengyun. I've only treated her alone so far. The man asked as he craned his neck to look behind me into the house. Mage Ding, are you alone? Is your master at home? Just me. I replied casually. From the man's tone and demeanor, he didn't believe in my Taoism and was skeptical of me. Naturally, I'm not going to be all that polite to people who don't believe in me. It's impossible to put a hot face on someone's cold ass. Oh, so that's it. The man nodded and said nothing else. I faded. If there's nothing else for you to do, go. With that, I was about to close the door. Hey, Mage Ding, I have something I want to ask you for. When he saw me close the door, the man was in a hurry and said hastily. I didn't say anything, just looked at him quietly. I never ask for anything in business. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't rub my nose in it. I don't have that kind of time to listen to your bullshit. When the man saw this attitude of mine, he also immediately put away his contempt. He hurriedly took out a red envelope from his pocket and handed it to me, with a smile on his face, politely saying, Venerable Master Ding, my name is Zhao Yongjun. I'm looking for you today because I have something I want to ask of you. Please accept this small token. Zhao Yongjun was polite to me and didn't dare to be reckless. Seeing his attitude change, the little bit of irritation in my heart dissipated. I took a look at the red envelope he handed me. Red envelope was deflated, no more than $3,000 at the most. Although Zhao Yongjun hadn't spoken yet, I had already roughly guessed his intentions. $3,000 won't do it if you want to fix what happened to him, I said bluntly. Mr. Zhao, I do business at a clear price. That's not enough money for you to deal with what's happening to you. A flash of embarrassment flashed across Zhao Yongjun's face. He scratched his head and laughed dryly. Mage Ding, could it be that you know my intentions in seeking you out? In order to completely shock the man, as well as get him to pay up, I was going to tell him something tough. I said in an extremely flat tone. A little boy in a green down jacket was on your back when you came over just now. The little boy was about 5 or 6 years old, and had a pigtail in the back of his head, and his clothes were. I hadn't finished my sentence. Zhao Yongjun snapped and kneeled in front of me. Tears swished out of his eyes. A look of horror crossed his face as he cried out to me. Venerable Master Ding, you are truly a master. Please help me, I'm willing to pay more, I'll pay whatever you say. After saying that, Zhao Yongjun even pulled on my clothes, his eyes showing a pleading color, full of helplessness. Get up. It's kind of your karma that you found me here. I faded. I'm open for business. There's no reason to push business out. Besides, Zhao Yongjun's posture is down, so I don't have anything to count on. Zhao Yongjun's face showed a look of joy as he wiped away his tears and climbed up. When he came to the house, Zhao Yongjun took out all the money he had on him, which totaled more than 6,000. He politely said to me, Venerable Master Ding, I wonder how much payment you would like to receive. Take this money for now, I'll go get you as much as you need later. I was not polite and took the money. It's only right to get paid for taking care of evil things for people. If you don't take a penny, instead, you will still be going against the way of heaven and will be revolted. I sat down on the eunuch's chair in a 4-way tie. Zhao Yongjun stood in front of me respectfully. I glanced at him and faded. I'll charge $38,000 for your affair, and remember to make up the missing money. Zhao Yongjun heard the figure of 38,000 for a moment of flesh pain, but still hastily nodded his head and said yes. Compared to one's life, money is nothing. Spell out your needs. I said. Venerable Ting, I work in a crematorium and am a corpse carrier. My daily job is to carry dead bodies into the incinerator, to be burned, and I've been in this business for 2 years now. The thing is, I was safe and sound until a week ago. Zhao Yongjun paused when he said this, as if he had thought of something horrible. A cold shiver ran down his spine and his cheek swished out of color. After a 2-second pause, he continued on. A week ago, I suddenly started having nightmares. In the dream there was a long-haired woman with scissors trying to kill me, and I was running around and couldn't get away. I had this dream for a week straight, every day it was the same nightmare, that woman tortured me every night, I was on the verge of breaking down, I didn't want to live anymore. Who knew that this woman's nightmare I hadn't solved yet, and then last night a little boy in a green pinafore appeared. The little boy appeared in my dream too, he was screaming at the top of his lungs to kill me, he was on my back was breaking and I couldn't shake him off. Mage Ding, I'm falling apart, please help me. I'd been to many people before I came to you, and none of them could cure the evil thing in me. Ms. Yang said that Venerable Ding is a high-ranking person. Venerable Ding will definitely be able to cure the problems on my body. Please, 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 please. Zhao Yongjin was shocked, snot and tears are aflow. The legs went weak and tried to kneel for me again, but I stopped them. I mused. Judging from that little ghost lying on Zhao Yongjin's back, this is not just a simple nightmare for him, he is being haunted by a ghost. I asked, did you do anything else before the nightmare? Zhao Yongjin shook his head violently, stating that he did not have even the most basic recreational activities every day, except for working and sleeping. I nodded, and after a moment of contemplation, said, take your top off and I'll take a look. Zhao Yongjin immediately took off his shirt and stood naked in front of me. My calm gaze went toward Zhao Yongjin's back. First look down. My expression froze and instantly became incredibly serious, my gaze fixed on Zhao Yongjin's back. Chapter 16, Terrifying Dead Man's Corpse. At this time on Zhao Yongjin's back, it wasn't something that could be described with the word terror. This is the first time I've seen something so evil. The first thing that caught his eye was a black silhouette. The black silhouette was lying on Zhao Yongjin's back, and the silhouette looked like it had been branded onto his skin with a branding iron. The black silhouette was lying on his back, picking at his neck with its hands, and it looked like Zhao Yongjin was carrying a man on his back, no doubt about it. This black figure is what the brat left behind. The figure looked a bit intimidating, but it wasn't what made me focus on it yet. What made me focus my attention was the dense corpse spots that grew all over Zhao Yongjin's back. Those corpse spots were purple-black, stacked one on top of the other, occupying Zhao Yongjin's entire back. If someone with an intense phobia were to take one look at this corpse spot, they'd have to faint to death. A living person with so many corpse spots on his back, do you think it's evil? These corpse spots shouldn't even be growing on a living person. And these corpse spots look weird, they're definitely not your average corpse spots. Zhao Yongjin asked in some confusion when he saw that I kept staring at his back. Mage Ting, is there anything on my back? I subconsciously snapped back, don't you know that yourself? This scared Zhao Yongjin, and he hurriedly asked. Mage Ding, there shouldn't really be something behind me, should there? I even looked in the mirror this morning, there's nothing on my back. I slurred, it's okay, just stand still. I almost forgot, I'm using spirit pupil's eyes, what I see is different from what Zhao Yongjin sees, and it's normal that he can't see it. I looked at the corpse stains on his back with some disgust, hesitated for a moment, but reached out to poke him in the back and asked. How do you feel now? Does it hurt? Zhao Yongjin said he didn't feel anything, it didn't hurt at all. Is that necrotic poison in him? Or what the hell? I muttered in my mind. Soon I got rid of the necrotic poison. If he had been poisoned by the corpse, Zhao Yongjin would have died through and through. Since it wasn't necrotic poison, it must have been messed with by an evil creature. There are so many corpse spots growing on the living, what is he? A possibility occurred to me, and the whole thing went bad, and my face fell. I resumed my seat in the eunuch's chair, sullen and silent. Zhao Yongjin felt that my attitude had changed a bit, so he asked cautiously. Venerable Ding, what is wrong with you? Have you already figured out how to solve the problem in me? I looked up at Zhao Yongjin and asked in a deep voice. Recall carefully before you answer me, did you do anything unethical before you had the nightmare? Zhao Yongjin's eyes wandered a bit, but he still answered, no, no. Fearing I wouldn't believe him, he hastened to add. Venerable Ding, I am a corpse backer, I work the night shift, 12 hours a day, after work I fall asleep, where do I have time to do the lack of virtue? Please believe me, I really don't have any. Asshole! I bellowed angrily. Slamming the table, he stared angrily at Zhao Yongjin. I laughed coldly, you dare to lie in front of me when you're dying, you're tired of living. Zhao Yongjin is full of lies, and what he says cannot be trusted at all. I have just taken a closer look at his face, And there is a lustful look between his eyebrows, so obviously he has recently moved to lust. The kinky lust he moves is not a normal thing, and when you connect it to the corpse spot on his back, it's clear what's going on. Zhao Yongjun was startled by my sudden outburst. The body went limp and fell to his knees. Eyes flickered dramatically, not daring to look me in the eye at all. I said in a cold voice. There's an old saying that says, you can't live with what you've done to yourself. Zhao Yongjun, you've gotten into a big mess, know that? You're still trying to hide it now. Do you want me to take the fall for you? Zhao Yongjun cried in fear. Mage, I didn't mean to lie to you. I didn't think this matter had much to do with it. Say, what the hell did you do? Confess truthfully, without the slightest concealment. I snapped. At this point I was annoyed as hell. Some of them regretted taking this business from Zhao Yongjun. If I had seen the corpse spot on his back when I came up, I would have absolutely told him to fuck off. There's a rule in our business, as long as you take a job, you can't back out halfway through. As long as it's picked up, through tears, you'll finish it. I've been punked by Zhao Yongjun, so you tell me I have a lot of fire in my heart. Zhao Yongjun had already been shocked by the aura on my body and couldn't care less about his shame, closing his eyes and hurrying to answer. A week ago, a woman's body was delivered at the crematorium. At that time, I lost money in a card game and was in an irritable mood, so I used force on that female corpse to vent my anger, and then set her on fire. Asshole! I let out another cry of rage. Adultery is the most abominable and disgraceful thing. Not to mention he's still on a female corpse. The thing is already obvious. Zhao Yongjun desecrated that female corpse. The owner of that woman's corpse had a grudge that wouldn't go away and came back to take revenge on him. Because he had strengthened the female corpse, the corpse gas and resentment from the female corpse entered his body and became that horrible corpse spot. However, it was the origin of that little ghost that made me wonder a bit. That little kid was also filled with hatred towards Zhao Yongjun. Obviously Zhao Yongjun had done something evil to that kid again. What's with that little ghost that's haunting you? Did you do something to someone? I asked. Zhao Yongjun lowered his head and said in a mosquito-like voice. The child was drowned in the water and was taken to the crematorium 3 days ago. I was contacted before this by someone who offered me a reward for getting him a child's body for him to study. I was there and saw that the boy met the man's requirements, so I quietly hid the boy's body and sold it to the man afterward. I don't know what to say anymore when I hear that. He sold the bodies of people's children for money, so what were the ashes given to the parents? That must have been some random ashes shoveled up, not even knowing who they belonged to. It's simply shameless. There is no humanity or conscience at all. This guy still looks like a nice guy. I can't imagine doing something like this. Vicious to the core, shaped like a demon. Bastard. Zhao Yongjun violently kowtowed to me, crying. Venerable, I also did such a thing in a moment of ghostly confusion. I know it's wrong, I won't dare to do it again. Mage, please save me, give me another chance to live. Mage, please. I have an old man and a young man, I don't want to die yet. Chapter 17, Inviting Ghosts. I looked at Zhao Yongjun with a cold face. This man is so shameless, so unethical, that what he's done is deeply despicable to me. The previous one, Yang Mingyun, talked about 5 boyfriends at the same time, which was indeed hurtful, but they didn't hurt anyone else. The animal in front of me is the scourge of the dead. Now the dead man has returned to seek revenge on him, and this is his retribution. Now let me save him. I'll save a hammer. The thought of the rules of the trade made me grind my teeth for a moment. What a fucking carelessness. You can't step in a pit like that in the future. Alright, Zhao Yongjun, don't kowtow to me either, get up. I said impatiently. I'm not a bodhisattva, why kowtow to me? Zhao Yongjun's face was ecstatic, he thought I promised him. Climbing to his feet, he said to me eagerly. Mage, thank you. I'll get your payment to you in a timely manner. No, I pay you double. I waved my hand. I don't want the rest of the payoff. Zhao Yongjun got anxious and tried to speak, but I stopped him. I murmured. Zhao Yongjun, to tell you the truth, what you did was just too vicious. Now it makes sense that those dead souls would come to you for revenge. I can't save you from this, no one can. You did the deed, then you must bear the consequences of this evil. Zhao Yongjun's face turned pale as his body stumbled and fell to the ground. His face was filled with fear, beads of sweat rolling down his face, and he couldn't say a word. I glanced at him. Sigh. Zhao Yongjun, the cycle of karma, 1,000 times you shouldn't have moved to lustful and evil thoughts. Now that you've found me, this is a piece of karma between you and me. If I do nothing, it will be a failure of this karmic law. The color of hope appeared in Zhao Yongjun's eyes again, and he looked at me blearily. I murmured. Didn't you say you have an old man and a young man? One person does everything. This matter will end here on you. Don't involve your family. I can promise you that I'll keep those two evil spirits from harming your family. What do you think? Zhao Yongjun drooped his head and didn't say anything. I should warn you that those two evil spirits in you are fierce. If you don't intervene, they'll not only want you dead, they'll hurt your family. Go back and think about it, and come back to me when you've thought it over, and don't take too long to think about it. I added. Zhao Yongjun nodded and stumbled away, his back hunching even more as he left. Self-inflicted evil. I looked at his back and whispered. I can't sympathize with him. Early the next morning, someone was knocking on my door. I went out and saw that it was none other than Zhao Yongjun. Seeing Zhao Yongjun at this moment, my eyelids jumped. After not seeing him for a night, Zhao Yongjun looked like a different person. He could barely stretch his back. The features were jagged and the eye sockets were so deep that they seemed to be skin and bones. His eyes were red and bloodshot. The corpse aura and yin aura on his body became even more intense, almost swallowing his vitality completely. Seeing Zhao Yongjun in such a state, I secretly shook my head in my heart. He's reached his time. It's useless for the great Luo Jingxian to come. Mage, I've thought it over. Zhao Yongjun's hoarse voice was hard to hear, as if he had a thick lump of phlegm stuck in his throat. I take your advice, one for all. I'll take the blame for the sins I've created myself, and ask the venerable master to protect my wife and children. After saying that, Zhao Yongjun wanted to kneel down for me, but I pulled him back. I nodded. Since I promised you something, I'm sure I'll do it. Thank you, mage. Zhao Yongjun deeply bowed to me, and his trembling hand took out a red envelope from his bosom and handed it to me. Mage, here is the rest of the payment, please take it. I didn't take it and said, save that money for your wife and kids. A gentleman loves money and takes it in the right way, and a monk must have his own principles. Without too much nonsense, I went to Zhao Yongjun's house with him. On the way, Zhao Yongjun told me what happened last night. He said that the two ghosts came back to him last night and gave him a hard time in his dream, harsher than ever. They said they'd torture Zhao Yongjun to death little by little. To let Zhao Yongjun die in fear and pain. Zhao Yongjun thought he wouldn't survive last night, but he couldn't imagine waking up in the morning. The first thing he did when he woke up was run to me. He was scared, afraid of involving his wife and children. What can I say to that? Do or die, he did it all by himself. Zhao Yongjun's home is in a tin house in the suburbs. When I arrived, his daughter was doing her homework and his wife was doing the laundry. When Zhao Yongjun's wife saw me coming, she rushed over and looked at me with tears in her eyes. Zhao Yongjun went back from my place yesterday and has explained everything to his wife. Zhao Yongjun's wife wanted to ask for me, and before the words could come out of her mouth, she was stopped by Zhao Yongjun. Zhao Yongjun said hoarsely. Eva, her mother, take the child to her room to do her homework. I've already discussed this with the mage, so just stay out of it. Zhao Yongjun's wife wiped her tears and led her daughter back to her room. Don't do anything so unethical in your next life. I said. Come to the room. Keep the doors and windows closed. I set up a Dharma altar and made Zhao Yongjun sit on one side. I offered incense and then burned paper money. I said to Zhao Yongjun. I'm going to summon those two ghosts over to talk to them now. Did you memorize everything I told you? Mage, I've memorized it. Zhao Yongjun hurriedly nodded his head. Once I was sure there were no problems, I began to recite the invocation spell. Swinging wandering souls, where to survive, wild places by the river, graves mountains and forests. Lu Rong, Zhou Feng, return quickly, urgently. Even though it's daytime, I know the names of the two ghosts, and I know they roam around, so I can invoke them during the day. If these conditions are not present, then the only way to recruit is at night. After about 7 or 8 minutes, there was a knock on the door. I asked drily, who? Lu Rong. A woman's voice said. Immediately followed by another little boy's voice, Zhou Feng. Hearing that voice, Zhao Yongjun's body shook violently, and his heart was scared. I opened the door to my room and both ghosts were standing outside. Come in. I said. They came in and looked at Zhao Yongjun with hideousness and hatred in their eyes, itching to pounce on them. Because I'm here, they don't dare to move yet. I came to you today to settle the grudge between you. Zhao Yongjun has recognized his mistake in this matter, and he is prepared to bear his own consequences. Today in front of me, you guys settle the matter and don't hurt Zhao Yongjun's family. What do you two think of my offer? I said in a deep voice, my gaze falling on Lu Rong and Zhou Feng. Chapter 18, Sudden Changes. The two ghosts did not speak. There was a lull in the room. My face gradually grimaced. Perhaps Lu Rong sensed that my face was not right and said unwillingly. Venerable, this beast desecrated my corpse, and I am very upset. I said in a hushed voice, my eyelids drooping slightly. He desecrated your body, he is guilty, and he will pay for his sins. All the sins end once and for all in him, and do not involve his family. Mage, what if I don't agree? Lu Rong looked at me and said. I said with a grimace. I'm not discussing it with you. If you don't agree, I don't mind exterminating you. People who cultivate the way must have their own fire. When necessary, one has to show the killing spirit. Indecisiveness, fretfulness, and a very small matter can become very complicated. Lu Rong's face changed, not daring to meet my eyes. Keeping his head down, he whispered after a moment of silence. Since the mage says so, then I will do as the mage arranges. But I need him to apologize to me. Yes. I nodded. My gaze went back to Kid Zhou Feng and asked, what about you? I'll do what the mage says too. Zhou Feng said hastily. I said with a slightly softer face. I'll give you half an incense stick to settle this. After that I left the room. I had just stepped outside when I heard Zhao Yongjun's screams. I looked calm, as if I hadn't heard. There's nothing to say that if you do something wrong, then you have to be punished. Half an incense stick later. I went back into the room. Glancing at Zhao Yongjun, he was already dead, his soul huddled in the corner shivering. I looked at Lu Rong and Zhou Feng and said in a deep voice. Your revenge has been avenged, and this matter ends here. The two ghosts nodded their heads in agreement. I looked at them and continued. This is the young world, not the world that belongs to you. Since you're already dead, report obediently to the underworld. Are you going on your own, or do I have to beat you down? Lu Rong said hastily. Mage, don't bother, I'll be down there tonight. I'm going back to say goodbye to my family, and then I'm going to the underworld. I assure the mage that I will never wander back into the sunny side of the world. Zhou Feng also hastily nodded in agreement. I gave Lu Rong a warning look. Remember what you said, if you dare to lie to me, I will make you regret it. Lu Rong hurriedly said she wouldn't dare and would definitely listen to me. Seeing that she had a good attitude, I waved them off. People who cultivate the way always have to pay attention to the goodness of heaven, and if they get by, I won't drive them to extinction. I looked over at the huddled Zhao Yongjun and sighed. Grab your wife and kids and say goodbye and get down there. Thank you, mage. Zhao Yongjun cried and thanked me. He died, but he saved his wife and child. If I hadn't intervened, those two ghosts wouldn't have spared their families. With that out of the way, I returned home. I thought this whole thing was over. I didn't expect a cry to ring out outside my house near dawn. Mage, go save my wife and child. That evil spirit is going to harm them, please venerable. I jerked awake at the sound of that cry and rolled out of bed in an instant. That voice sounded familiar to me, it was Zhao Yongjin's voice. I opened the door, and sure enough, I saw the ghost of Zhao Yongjin kneeling outside my front door. I asked, frowning. Zhao Yongjin, didn't you go to the underworld to reincarnate? Get up and talk, what happened? Venerable Master, quickly go and save my wife and child. That female ghost called Lu Rong has gone to harm my wife and child. If we go late it will be too late. Zhao Yongjun cried. He had gone to the underworld to reincarnate, and when he was halfway there, he heard the cries of his wife and children, so he ran back and rushed to me for help. After hearing what happened, my eyes were filled with anger and killing intent as I bellowed. Asshole, how dare you lie to me? Zhao Yongjun, hurry down and don't miss the time, I'll take care of your wife and child. Thank you, Mage, thank you, Mage. Zhao Yongjun cried bitterly and left completely after kowtowing to me. I rode a battery bike frantically toward Zhao Yongjin's house, my heart was holding a bellyful of fire. I've been tricked by a ghost. How angry do you think I am? During the daytime, Lu Rong all honestly promised me. At night she stood me up and snuck off to do harm. She is treating me with contempt and provocation, which is intolerable. Damned Lu Rong, the kindness I gave you, you used it as capital for wanton evil. Fine, since you don't know what to do, let your soul be scattered. A very strong killing intent flashed in my eyes. Lu Rong must die. She will have her soul scattered for eternity, and will not even have a chance to be reincarnated. I rushed to Zhao Yongjin's house as fast as I could. When I saw the situation in the house, my eyebrows directly furrowed into a Chuan character, and my mood was incredibly heavy. Big deal. Zhao Yongjin's wife Zhongli fell to the ground, motionless, her face as white as paper, like a dead person. Zhao Yongjin's child, Xiaoyuan, collapsed in her room and didn't move. I hurriedly squatted down and felt Zhongli's pulse. It had already lost its beat, and her body didn't have any temperature. I took out the Bagua mirror and shone it at Zhongli, and a golden light fell on Zhongli's brow. I made a Dharma seal and drank. Edict from the Supreme Lord, reveal your soul, and be in a hurry. The spell fell, and the Bagua mirror was empty. I let out a long sigh, and Zhongli's soul is gone and her flesh has lost its vitality, she's hopeless. I rushed into the room. Thankfully, Hope still had a pulse beating. I shined another light on her soul, and 2 of the 3 souls remained in her body. There are still 2 prana left, and there is still salvation. I rejoiced and hurriedly cut open my finger and drew a soul-suppressing talisman on Hope's brow with blood. The imperial edict of the Taishang, the heavenly soldiers and generals, the demons and evils retreat, lock the souls and suppress the spirits, and make haste. As the incantation fell, the soul suppressor talisman on Hope's brow flashed with a golden light, then the talisman's light rushed into her soul's orifices. The 2 spirits in Hope's body were locked in my physical body, which prevented the 2 spirits from going lost and prevented the problem from getting more complicated and worse. Zhongli is dead, and there's nothing I can do about it. The most crucial thing right now is to get Hope's lost soul back in the shortest possible time. As long as her soul is returned to its rightful place before the sun goes down today, then she is still saved. I carried Hope to bed, set up and rushed out. Time is of the essence, and I'm too late to deal with Zhongli. The next thing I need to do is find Lu Rong, kill her, and snatch Hope's soul back. Chapter 19, Xingwang. There was a question before me that needed to be considered quickly. Where could I go to find Lu Rong? Lu Rong must have gone into hiding after she hurt someone. At this point, I'm still trying to use the ghost invocation technique. Surely it won't work. She won't cooperate with me to come over. After a slight pause, the one place that comes to mind is the nearest city hall. Xingwang is an official of the underworld located in the Yang world, and each Xinguang manages the Yin affairs on his own piece of land. There is a saying that when something evil happens, look for the city god. But if you do go looking for it, 9 times out of 10 people don't talk to you, and 1 time they say they can't do it. The city god thing is now a showpiece, and all those city gods are just eating the dry rice of hell without doing anything. He just doesn't do anything. What can ordinary people do to him? Complaints? Where can you go to complain? You don't even have a place to complain. I made my way to the nearest city hall as fast as I could. It was still light when I went there, and the city god was still asleep. I was banging on that door. The city god was not pleased and got up to open the door, cursing and swearing, with profanity coming out of his mouth. Which turtle grandson came knocking on the door in the morning? Do people still want to sleep? His grandmother. Xinguang opened the door and came out. It's a short fat guy, like a fat pig. He froze when he saw me and didn't curse anymore. Scrutinizing eyes fell on me. He vaguely felt that I was somewhat not to be messed with, and his attitude immediately put on some amiability and asked. This little brother, you have to find me so early. Call the mage. I interrupted, sulking. This city god is just looking at people to do his job. I have to give him a hard time or he won't be honest. As I spoke, I also gave off some of my aura. The city god felt the breath on my body, and the fat on his face twitched, and a smile squeezed out of his pate-filled face. So it's mage quickly inside please. I murmured. Fatty, I don't have time to babble to you. You immediately find out for me, Lujia village, where a female ghost named Lu Rong is hiding right now. The place under the jurisdiction of this city god in front of me is only as big as the palm of my hand, and his status is very low, so there is no problem at all for me to address him in this way. The fat on Shingo's face shook again. In his heart, he resented me calling him fat. But he didn't dare say anything because he couldn't fuck me. Mage, wait a moment, I'll check it out for you. Shingo said hastily. He went back to his room and grabbed a booklet with a lot of names on it, and those names bloomed with an ethereal light that looked a little spooky. The names on the booklet are all people who have died in the neighborhood and are normally registered. The city god made a search and finally found Lu Rong's name. After a moment, he scratched his head and gave me a cautious look. Did you find it? Tell me where Luong is? I anxiously inquired. Shingo whispered in a mosquito-like voice. Mage, Lu Rong's magic is too strong, I can't find out where she is. I frowned, looking sullenly at Shingo. The city god wept and showed me the booklet in his hand. Mage, I'm telling the truth, I'm really not lying to you. I'm just a small city god with limited magical power, I really can't find out. I grunted in displeasure. I'm not city god. I can't read his pamphlets. However, a flash of doubt flashed through my mind when I heard the city god say this. Yesterday, I did see Lu Rong, who has average magical powers, and it is reasonable to say that the city god can see her in the booklet. Could it be that something happened last night that made Lu Rong's magic power increase greatly? A speculation flashed through my mind. If nothing had happened, where Lu Rong's mana could have easily gotten stronger so quickly. I asked with a sullen face, that means you can't find out where Lu Rong is? Shingo didn't speak immediately, his eyes flickering. Seeing him like this, I immediately threatened. Damn fatso, hurry up and find her for me. If you don't find Lu Rong for me today, I'll tear down this city temple of yours. So many city gods do it by connections these days. They won't even do their job until they show them a little color. Look at this city god all eaten into a fat pig. How much oil do you think he has on a regular basis? The city god was outraged at my threatening words and said hastily. Mage, don't be in a hurry, let me think of something for you. He flipped through the brochure quickly again, then asked cautiously. Mage, I wonder what you want with Lu Rong. Seeing that I was about to get angry, he added hastily. Mage, tell me your problem, maybe I can help you in another way. I quickly put things into perspective. With a thoughtful look in his eyes, the city god said. Mage, although I can't find Lu Rong, I can help you find out where that child's lost soul went. If we can find that child's soul, then it's possible to find Lu Rong. Then why are you dawdling? Come on, I urged. The city god did some more searching, and it wasn't long before he called out in delight. Mage, I have found the lost soul of that child. She's at a broken-down factory on the west side of town that's been abandoned for years. I left before the city god's words left my mouth. I had to hurry time to get there. Shingo looked at my back and grunted in a small voice, finally taking out his frustration by slamming the door hard and heavy. I got as fast as I could to where the city god said I would be. Sure enough, it was an abandoned factory, and the plant was overgrown with weeds. The place hadn't been visited for many years and was so gloomy that it was a haunted paradise at night. I stood tall and looked out over the abandoned factory for a moment, frowning slightly. Even in the daytime, there's a lot of in there. From this situation, there should be a great evil and wicked thing hidden in the factory, which is a test for my Taoism. I sulked a little, then went in with the guy on my back. I had no choice in the matter. I had to go in and break in. I am the son of a dragon, born to be extraordinary. It's not that easy to want me to die. The factory was shrouded in a cloudy atmosphere, and it was cool inside, just 2 temperatures from outside. I held my copper sword in my right hand and stepped over the weeds and thorns deeper into the mill. Raise your guard and keep a wary eye on your surroundings for movement. I don't know if it was God's test for me, but as soon as I went in, the sky was just covered with dark clouds, and the sun looked like it was going to rain heavily. The moment the sun was covered by dark clouds, the yin qi here was not suppressed by yang qi. I obviously felt that the yin qi was much stronger, at least doubled. I scanned the sky and continued to walk inside. As I crossed the broken yard and entered the plant, suddenly there was a strange cry in the darkness, a cry that sounded like a woman's cry. Immediately following, a dark shadow lunged ferociously at me. Chapter 20, Ghosts in Human Skin. The black shadow pounced over very quickly and ferociously. It happened suddenly, without any warning. My heart skipped a beat when I saw such a swift attack. I'm not panicking. Between the lightning bolts, I waved my hand violently, and a ghost-killing talisman instantly shot out from my hand. The ghost-killing talisman met the lunging black shadow and crashed into it. Boo! With a muffled sound, the runic light flickered, and Yang Qi gulped. The black shadow let out a shrill scream and was repelled by my ghost-killing talisman. It rolled on the ground and then disappeared into a dark corner. Looking in the direction where the dark shadow disappeared, I frowned. Although the black shadow was fast just now, I still saw it clearly. It was a person. Nope. Instead of being a person, it's more like a human skin. It was a burnt and blackened human skin. It is as ghostly as a human skin, but it can walk freely and has an independent life. Is that a human-skinned ghost? I said to myself. The so-called human-skinned ghosts, those are ghosts that are transformed from the skin of a dead person after death. This thing is very evil, much more vicious than ordinary ghosts. The formation of a human skin ghost is very difficult, that requires extremely strong grievances to fall on the human skin to be able to do so. To be able to meet a human skin ghost is also a stroke of luck. Some people who cultivate the Taoist religion will never meet this thing in their whole life. Human-skinned ghosts are cunning, vicious, and full of violence. Its favorite is to eat a person's skin alive, meaning, while they are still alive, to tear your skin off hard and eat it, and still dip it in hot blood and eat it together. The victims were given a living pain in the ass. The human-skinned ghost was covered in charcoal, as if it had been burned by fire. It was quite unexpected that there was actually a human-skinned ghost in this abandoned factory building. My eyes flickered. I had just come in and encountered a human-skinned ghost. It seemed that this time it wasn't going to be that easy to accomplish, and it was going to take a lot of work to get Hope's soul back. I felt my pockets and only had 10 ghost-killing talismans left, so I had to save theme. A human-skinned ghost couldn't scare me yet, so I moved on, burrowing my way into the plant. As I went deeper, the Yin aura became more intense and gave me a sense of crisis. I had a trance-like feeling, as if a number of invisible eyes were staring intently at me in the darkness. It was dead silent, no sound but my footsteps and breathing. The atmosphere is depressing, dangerous. The human skin ghost disappeared just now, and I didn't see it even after searching for a while. And there's no sign of Hope's lost soul, much less Lu Rong. I composed myself and continued to search with my flashlight. Suddenly, I heard a noise coming from the top of my head, and I looked up and the word crap came to his mind, and he hurriedly dodged to the side to avoid it. When I just dodged out of the way. Snap. A muffled sound. An object smashed into the spot where I had just been standing, and if I had moved any slower, I would have been hit by that object in the falling from the ceiling was a coffin. The coffin smashed into the ground and was directly split into pieces, and a dry corpse fell out of the coffin. My brow furrowed at the sight of the dried corpse and goosebumps rose all over my body. That dry body had suffered great torture in his life, and all the human skin on him was gone, as if it had been torn off by something. Not only that. There was also a hole pulled out of his chest, and the man's internal organs seemed to have been pulled out of this hole by something. The marks of that hole were very irregular, and that should have been hardened by some kind of sharp claws. My eyes looked at the dry corpse for a few moments before retracting. If I'm not mistaken, this person should have been killed by that very same human-skinned ghost. Humph, are you trying to scare me and give me a hard time? I snorted coldly, a cold light blooming in my eyes that didn't scare me, and I continued onward in my search. I'd been looking for a few more minutes. Suddenly, a silhouette flickered out of the corner of my eye, very fast. My attack fell short and the figure fled. You won't get away with it. I growled low and sped up my search. Snap. Another coffin fell from the ceiling and hit a meter in front of me. This time the coffin was not smashed and was intact. I glanced at the coffin. With a grunt, he went around the side, not bothering to open the lid of the coffin to take a look. The coffin, however, was not happy. It was like it was alive, moving straight across the ground and blocking my path. Huh? I let out a startled gasp and re-examined the coffin. With a flick of my wrist, a ghost-killing talisman slipped from my sleeve into my palm. Get out! With a loud shout, I violently slapped the ghost-killing talisman toward the coffin when the ghost-killing talisman was about to slap the coffin. Boo! With a muffled sound, the coffin exploded and a figure jumped out of it. The silhouette jumped so high that it went up to the ceiling. Ho! The silhouette opened its mouth and hissed, dodging quickly to avoid my ghost-killing talisman. Seeing this, the Dharma seal on my hand changed violently and, drumming loudly, he said, "By the edict of the Supreme Lord, subdue and kill." The ghost-killing talisman that was about to fall to the ground, under the enchantment of my incantation, flew back up and continued to fly towards the figure. The figure that jumped out of the coffin was also a dry corpse without skin. Only the grievances of this dry corpse had not dissipated, making it a corpse spirit that could still eat people. Ho! The Dryad's roar. Opening his mouth, a stream of yellow corpse gas erupted from his mouth. The corpse energy seemed like a water arrow, blasting towards my ghost-killing talisman. The ghost-killing talisman slammed straight into it under my control. Boo! With a muffled sound, the yang qi tumbled, and the corpse qi of the dry corpse was instantly ground clean. The power of the ghost-killing talisman hadn't finished dissipating yet, and it continued to blast at the dry corpse. The Dryad couldn't dodge in time and was blasted by the residual power of the ghost-killing talisman. The dry body let out a scream and slammed heavily on the ground, its arms and legs still twitching. I walked up to it, recited an incantation, and took a phylactery stick and nailed it to its brow. Pissed. The dry corpse's brow was instantly nailed through, and its last bit of spirit completely vanished. You won't be able to escape, I have to destroy you today. I whispered that the dry body that gave birth to a spirit was also made by that human-skinned ghost. The human-skin ghost hid in this abandoned factory and killed a lot of people. What I didn't notice as I continued on was that the behind me was following a silhouette without a sound. The figure was very weird. It seemed to be walking close to the place, following my pace without making any noise. Not for long. The silhouette slowly rose from the ground, almost coming up against my back. The figure opens his hands with sharp claws on his fingers. The sharp claws were very sharp and also bloomed with a ghostly light, which could easily tear apart a person's flesh and blood. The figure grinned and let out a silent, sardonic laugh that immediately following. Sharp claws stabbed me hard in the back of my heart. According to its posture, it was ready to take out all my heart and internal organs. It struck with perfect speed and timing, not wanting to leave me any room for resistance. Chapter 21 Nailed Ghosts. Pfft. The silhouette got a sneak attack. Its sharp claws pierced through the back of my heart with unerring accuracy, puncturing a hole in my body. However, instead of being happy, the silhouette was filled with panic. It let out a screech and burst backward sharply. Late. A cold voice rang out. A copper sword blooming with golden light fiercely swiped at the silhouette. Ow dash. The silhouette let out a miserable scream and smashed onto the ground. My figure appeared where the silhouette had just stood. As for my figure that had been stabbed through the chest by the silhouette, it suddenly dissipated, and a yellow talisman burned to ashes out of thin air. Since I knew this place was not simple, how could I be careless? Just now, I just used a blindfold to deliberately lure that guy out. I proved successful, wounding the thing for a very small price. I looked down at the ground, a sneer on my face. The silhouette that tried to rip out my heart was the same human-skinned ghost from before. The human-skinned ghost took a copper sword from me, and the positive yang qi in his body was ravaged, and he climbed up with difficulty. He looked at me with a look of resentment, a look that wanted to dismantle me. He growled in a low voice, "Cunning thing, to have me fooled." I grunted coldly, "If monasticism has no brain, what's the difference between it and a reckless person? The thing about brains is that they are sometimes more important than strength." I looked at the human-skinned ghost and chortled. "You, get your ass over here." This condescending attitude of mine, not putting the human-skinned ghost in the slightest bit in my eyes, completely enraged the human-skinned ghost. He growled at me, showing his teeth. "Damn mage, are you so confident you can beat me? Don't be too complacent, you're just a kid who just got out of his hut. You want to kill me, don't even think about it." Immediately following, the human-skinned ghost said with greed in its eyes, staring at me intently. "Little mage, I can already smell the sweet scent of your blood and soul. I have a feeling that if I eat you, my mana will definitely increase greatly." Saying that, the human-skinned ghost even licked his lips, his harumph coming out, and there was an undisguised longing in his eyes. I frowned a little. I'm so sick of these evil spirits looking at me like that. I'm not their food. On the contrary, they're the ones who are my prey. I said to myself in my mind, didn't Sujin say that the Dragonborn sun's aura was broken on me? Why do these things still want to eat me? I dismissed the distractions in my mind and cursed at the human-skinned ghost. "Eat your fucking head off. What kind of thing are you that you dare to presume to eat this venerable master? Since you don't obediently roll over, don't blame me for being rude." As I spoke, I violently took a big step forward and swung my copper sword to kill the human-skinned ghost. This ghost thing was hit by my ghost-killing talisman at the beginning, and just now he was hit by my copper coin sword. He was already injured, whereas he's still my opponent. If he's really that grounded, then he wouldn't have resorted to sneak attack tactics against me. The human-skinned ghost saw me coming for the kill, let out a scream, and hastily jumped backwards. A cold glint flashed in my eyes, and I accelerated violently. He's fast, I'm faster. It was in front of him in an instant, not giving him a chance to escape and dodge. Seeing that it couldn't dodge, the human-skin ghost could only hiss and reveal its sharp claws to meet my copper coin sword. Pissed. The copper sword chopped at the sharp claws of the human-skinned ghost. It directly severed that sharp claw of his. Easy and casual, like cutting tofu blocks. Ow! The human-skinned ghost hissed in pain and thrashed violently on the ground. I looked at the human-skinned ghost indifferently and sneered. Do you think you can clamber in front of me with that little mana of yours? If it wasn't for the sake of asking you, I would have chopped you up with a sword just now. The human-skinned ghost doesn't dare say another word. The ghostly aura curled around his body, trying to roll up the gloomy wind to escape. Set. I cast a fixation spell on him, and it fixed him straight away. The human-skinned ghost screamed and struggled, but could not break my fixation spell. I walked up to him and looked down at him and, with a disdainful look on his face, he said, "You're nothing but a human skin, what are you going to fight me with? Do you really think that you've reached the point where you can disregard all the mages in the world?" What else could the human-skinned ghost say but look at me with resentment? I didn't bother wasting my breath talking nonsense with him and asked, drily, "Tell me, where is that ghost girl Lu Rong hiding?" The human-skinned ghost screamed. "You won't let me go anyway, I'll end up dead, why should I tell you, go find out if you can." A glare flashed in my eyes and a sneer appeared on my face. "Now that you're in my hands, do you think it's up to you to talk if you want to and not if you don't? Since you've fallen into my hands, it's up to me to say whether or not to say anything." My method was simple. I took a couple of mana sticks from my bag and stabbed them hard into the human-skinned ghost's body. My magic signatures are all treated in a special way, and they have strong restraining power against these ghostly and evil things. The legal sign falls. The human-skinned ghost let out a pig-killing scream. The pain was too much for him to bear. I didn't bullshit him, and nailed down one legal tag after another. 2 minutes later, the human-skinned ghost couldn't take it anymore and screamed in agony. "Mage, stop torturing me, I'll talk, I'll talk. The ghost girl you're looking for is hiding in the basement on the west side, you can find her there. Bitch." I drank a curse and another spell sign fell. As this spell sign fell, the human-skinned ghost's screams came to an abrupt end, and an evil aura erupted from him. A few seconds later, the human-skinned ghost's body deflated into a charred human skin plastered to the ground. Not only that, the human skin was rotting fast and soon became pus. I rushed to the basement that the human-skinned ghost said was closed up, and a ghostly aura filled the air from inside. I was a little worried that Lu Rong would dog-eat Hope's soul, so I didn't forcefully break open the basement door, but went in through the window on the other side. Once inside the basement, I soon found Lu Rong in one of the rooms. Lu Rong let out a scream of fear when she saw me and turned around to escape. She never dreamed that I had found her. "Can you escape?" With a roar, I slapped out a yellow talisman. Pissed. Lu Rong screamed miserably and was sent flying by the yellow talisman, seriously injured. I looked at Lu Rong with indifference, anger dancing in my eyes. This damned female ghost tricked me and then turned back to do harm. If I don't break her into pieces today, where should I put my face? You disgraced me and went on to harm others, I'm going to make you suffer for eternity. Fearful, Lu Rong hurriedly grabbed Hope's soul in her hands and shouted threats at me. "Don't you come any closer or I'll kill her. As soon as her soul dies, you will never save this child." Chapter 22, The 3 Souls and 7 Spirits Return. I laughed coldly and looked at Lu Rong indifferently. "Lu Rong, do you think you can threaten me? That little girl is not related to me, so if she's dead, so what's it got to do with me?" Lu Rong opened her mouth and looked at me with a surprised expression. My words were something she never expected. She thought she could use Hope as a bargaining chip to make me throw in the towel and buy her a shot at staying alive. As a result, she blundered. I kept a close eye on Lu Rong, paying attention to every expression on her face in her moment of disorientation. The essence light violently erupted in my eyes, and my body wordlessly rushed forward. Growing up, my mom gave me all sorts of herbs to drink and worked me up in all sorts of ways. So I'm in excellent physical condition and I run straight up as fast as lightning. Seeing me rush over, Lu Rong exclaimed in shock, realizing that she had been duped. With a scream, she was ready to lay waste to Hope's spirit. Set. The moment she did, I let out a fierce shout and cast a fixation spell directly on Lu Rong. At this point I wasn't too far away from her, just enough to cast the fixing spell. The fixation spell falls. Lu Rong was instantly miserable, her body directly unable to move, frozen in place. I was relieved to see this. If the fixation spell failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Bitch! I cursed viciously at Lu Rong, then carefully picked up Hope's soul. Hope's lost souls are all here, not a soul missing or injured. It was only at this point that my heart was completely in the ground, and I hurriedly collected her soul into the gourd. Are you kidding me? If I didn't care if Hope lived or died, then why would I go through all the trouble of finding her? The only reason I said that was to paralyze Lu Rong. Obviously my strategy was correct and my plan worked. I looked at Lu Rong with a sullen face and a cold light in my eyes. Collect. I let out a soft gulp and put away the fixing spell. Lu Rong has regained control of her body. With a look of horror on her face, she scrambled backwards and retreated into the corner. Lu Rong looked at me resentfully and screamed. Damn mage, you tricked me. Lu Rong was shocked and scared at this moment. It didn't take a brain to figure out what the consequences would be if she lost the amulet of Xiao Yuan. Lu Rong, kneel down. I snapped out a loud cry, my tongue breaking into thunder along with the sound of my drink. There was an extremely strong aura crushing towards her. Lu Rong's body trembled uncontrollably, her legs bent and she slowly knelt towards the ground. She was yelling in her mind, ordering herself not to kneel. Nah, I was putting so much pressure on her that she couldn't control herself. In the end. Snap. She knelt heavily in front of me. She was still trying to raise her proud head, but unfortunately the pressure I was putting on her made it impossible. Looking at Lu Rong in front of me, my eyes were overflowing with killing intent. I chortled morosely. Lu Rong, how dare you lie to me and go behind my back to harm people? Do you know what I will do to you? Lu Rong's heart was already filled with fear, and she lowered her head, unable to speak. Say. Again, I let out a cry of rage. Lu Rong's body trembled violently, lowered her head, and stammered. Mage, I didn't mean to try and trick you, I did what I did in a moment of haunting. Mage, can you give me another chance? I will definitely not harm anyone else, I will go to hell and reincarnate now. I burst out laughing in anger. The fact that this woman still wants to be reincarnated in hell is truly laughable. I sneered, do you think I'm going to give you another chance to reincarnate in hell? Lu Rong didn't speak, her body trembled tremendously, she already knew her fate. Why did you lie to me? Why did you run off and do harm? I asked drily. Lu Rong stammered out the reason. She said she hadn't wanted to do that, and had stumbled upon the human-skinned ghost while she was returning home to see her loved ones for the last time. The human-skinned ghost saw that Lu Rong had a grudge in her heart and egged her on. Unable to withstand the encouragement of the human-skinned ghost, Lu Rong kills back and goes back to harm people according to Lu Rong's plan. She hides here at the human-skinned ghost after she's done harming people. Hide out for a while, then get out when the wind dies down, and I'm not pursuing this anymore. At that time, the human-skinned ghost swore to her that this place was absolutely safe, and that I would never be able to find this place. The human-skinned ghost also said that even if I found my way here, he could still kill me, so she wouldn't have to worry at all. And the result? The human-skinned ghost flipped the car. Lu Rong called out. It's the human-skinned ghost that got me into this. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have done what I did. The human-skinned ghost has gotten me into a lot of trouble. I snorted coldly. I didn't care what ghost had harmed her, all I knew was that it was this female ghost who had lied to me and harmed someone, and she had to die. Asshole, go to hell. I cursed angrily, slapping a Yang Fire talisman out. He shouted, Yang Fire, come, haste. The Yang Fire talisman landed on Lu Rong's body and instantly transformed into a Yang Fire that ignited Lu Rong's body. Ah! Lu Rong let out a miserable scream. The pain of the burning Yang Fire made her pain unbearable. It was a pain that could not be described in words. It was like tearing her heart apart. The fire of Yang is getting hotter and hotter. It didn't take more than a few seconds to completely surround Lu Rong. Lu Rong's mournful scream resounded through the flames. It burned her for a full incense stick of time before the yang fire went out, and there wasn't even a crumb left of Lu Rong. I gave you a chance, it's you who made your own death, you deserve it. I said indifferently and left the place with Hope. Suli returned to Hope's house and hurriedly set up a spell altar to send Hope's spirit back into her body. The 3 souls and the 7 spirits returned to their places. The vitality in Hope's body began to return, and it wouldn't take long for her to wake up. This is a bitter child, let's hope the rest of her life is not so full of disasters. I left an amulet for her, explained to her relatives who had arrived at her house, and then went home. After 2 days, a middle-aged man came to see me at home. May I ask if you are Mage Ding? The man asked in a small voice, being polite to me. I am Ting Lin. I nodded, my eyes flicking over the middle-aged man. Frowning slightly, something about the man's aura struck me as odd. He's got a rather strong necrotic aura about him. What's more, this necrotic aura surprisingly gave me a sense of déjà vu. I must have seen this necrotic aura before. Almost instantly I thought of someone, Zhao Yongjun. That Zhao Yongjun, from before, also had this kind of corpse aura on both of them. Could it be that they both work at the same place? A thought flashed through my mind. Identifying me, the man was incredibly eager to speak to me. Mage Ding, help. I'm a corpse burner from the 3rd crematorium in Longjiang City. Something big has happened at the crematorium. Chapter 23, The Missing Female Body from the Crematorium. The 3rd crematorium in Longjiang City, that's exactly where Zhao Yongjun worked before his death. It was an old crematorium on the outskirts of Longjiang City, for many years. Zhao Yongjun is a corpse carrier, while the man in front of him is a corpse burner. I asked in a deep voice, Uncle, what exactly happened? Tell me carefully. Kong Yafei's face was horrified and his words were tinged with trembling. Venerable Master, there are dead people missing from the crematorium. The dead have already run out and harmed people, and there are already people who have been killed. I said as my eyelids snapped open. Uncle, don't be in a hurry. Slow down, what's going on? The look of fear on Kong Fei's face intensified as he trembled. Mage, the thing is, last night I was on duty with my workmate Xue Chang, who was in charge of carrying the corpse, and I was in charge of burning it. The crematorium has a rule that the furnace closes at 11 o'clock at night and doesn't open until the next day. When I was about to close the furnace last night, I received a call from the leader, who asked me to extend the closing time, saying that there was another body that needed to be cremated in a hurry. He's my leader and in charge of my paycheck, so I didn't dare disobey him, so I didn't close the furnace at the right time, and we've done things like that before, and nothing ever went wrong. We waited until about 10 minutes past 12 before Xue Chang was told to go and carry the body over. That's when I saw the body. It was a very young female corpse, probably around 20 years old, and Xue Chang said the girl was killed by someone. I was about to burn the corpse when suddenly the fire in the corpse furnace went out. That crematorium of ours is an old-fashioned crematorium, and we still use coal. I don't know how the fire went out, it was still burning brightly a second ago. Seeing the fire go out, Xue Chang and I were scared. According to the words of the old generation, the fire suddenly went out before the burning of the corpse, which is extremely unlucky. It most likely means that the deceased did not want to be burned. Against the will of the deceased is going to be a big deal. But our leader rushed us, so I couldn't care less about being scared and panicked to build a fire, wanting to burn this female corpse quickly. The more you hurry, the more you make a mess. It seems as if the coals are wet and you can't light them after burning them for a long time. At this time, the leader kept calling, and it's almost like he's hyping up the smoke. I was afraid of losing my job as the breadwinner, so I discussed a countermeasure with Xue Chang. We hid the woman's body and then shoveled some of other people's ashes to send out. We were thinking we'd get this over with and then turn around and burn the woman. The burned ashes are all the same and no one else recognizes them, so we just muddle through. I restarted the stove and was about to go and burn the woman's body when I suddenly realized that the woman had actually disappeared. Kong Fa paused at this point, the look of horror on his face intensifying. I didn't push, waiting for Kong Fa to continue. After a few seconds, Kong Fa blushed miserably and said. The body suddenly disappeared into thin air. Shui Cheng and I panicked, and we both remember very clearly that we were hiding the body in the cabinet. The two of us searched everywhere and looked all over the place, but we just couldn't find the body, and at that time we were both so scared that we started to have some bad fantasies in our heads. Kong Fa paused again when he said that, so I asked out loud. Could the female corpse be in a state of fake death, and in this process of you hiding her, she woke up and left on her own? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Kong Fa shook his head with great certainty and trembled. Mage, when that woman's body was brought here, the body had already begun to decompose. And there's no way a female corpse could come back from the dead when her throat was slit in life. I nodded thoughtfully and asked, so what happened back there? We both searched several times without finding the body, and we were afraid of losing our jobs if the irregularities were discovered, so we were going to hide the incident. At the time, we thought in our minds that no one but the two of us would know about the missing female body, and as long as we kept our mouths shut, it shouldn't be noticed. That's how we went back to the dormitory to sleep. Shui Cheng and I weren't in the same dormitory, and in the morning I was woken up by a noise outside, and I heard someone say that Shui Cheng was dead. When I heard this, I instantly woke up and rushed out to see that Shui Cheng was really dead. His death was extremely frightening. I was scared silly. Kong Fa crouched on the ground in fear and cried helplessly, his body like sifting chaff. I asked in a deep voice, how did Shui Cheng die? What did he look like at the time of his death? Kong Fa cried, I don't know how he died, I only know that his face was purple and swollen. His face was swollen so much, and on his neck there were dark fingerprints left by someone who had pinched him, and those fingerprints looked slim, like a woman's fingerprints. Kong Fa looked up at me sharply, his emotions almost breaking down as he exclaimed in agitation. Venerable Master, Shui Cheng must have been strangled to death by that female corpse. The female corpse is here to take revenge on us. The female corpse has already killed Shui Cheng, the next one will definitely come to kill me. Mage, please save me, I don't want to die, Mage, I beg you. Speaking excitedly, Kong Fa fell to his knees and kowtowed violently to me. You get up first, I said, pulling Kong Fa up. This thing, Kong Fa said, was full of evil, and I was really somewhat interested. Kong Fa took my hand and said excitedly. Venerable, Shui Cheng and I did that because we were afraid of losing our jobs, we really didn't want to do that, please Venerable, save me, if Shui Cheng dies, that female corpse will definitely come to kill me. It was only after some comforting words from me that Kong Fa's emotions were slightly more under control. He choked out a sob as he wiped hard at his eyes. If we had known this was going to happen, we wouldn't have violated the rules even if we lost our jobs. My wife just got pregnant and my old lady is sick and hospitalized, they both need me, what would they do if I died? I sensed Kong Fa's sadness and fear in his words, and it was an emotion not unlike Zhao Yongjin's. How could he work in that crematorium if he wasn't short of money? If one is not afraid of being fired by the leadership, how can one possibly go against the rules? They were at fault for breaking the rules, but they definitely didn't need to die. Kong Fa said he heard about me from Zhao Yongjin. Zhao Yongjin when he was alive often recited in front of them that I was a high man, so when something happened he thought of me first. Kong Fa took all the money he had on him and looked at me pitifully. Venerable Master, this is all the money I have on me, I've given all my money to my old lady's doctor, can you help me? As soon as I earn money, I'll make up for the mage's payment at the first opportunity, and beg the mage to be merciful and save me. Chapter 24, Strangled Alive by a Dead Corpse. I took the money from Kong Fa and nodded. Uncle, since you've come to me, there's no reason for me to refuse, I'll take this business. Although Kong Fa didn't pay much, I was interested in this matter of his, and I also wanted to investigate to see what secrets were hidden behind this curtain. Truth be told, in my line of work, there is no uniform standard for fees, everything depends on the mood. You're a billionaire. It's not too much for me to charge you $10 million at a time. Your total belongings are only $200, and you gave me $180 as payment, which is quite a lot. Different levels of people have to be treated separately. Seeing that I agreed, Kong Fa wept with joy, clasped his hands together and kept bowing to me, so moved that he could not speak. A flash of color appeared in my eyes, and at this moment in the underworld there was actually a light of merit falling on me. Based on this light of merit alone, I'm sure I'll make a good profit on this business. Without too much nagging, I took my guy and sent off with Kong Fat. I have to check on the deceased Xuecheng first, see if I can find some clues from him. Xuecheng's body has been transported to the funeral parlor, and Xuecheng's family members have come and are fussing with the head of the crematorium. The ripoff had nothing to do with me. I slipped in to view the body while Kong Fa went to his leader. While on the road, Kong Fa did some mental struggle and finally decided to tell the truth about last night to his leader. As for what he ended up with, he couldn't have cared less. He said his conscience would be uneasy if he didn't speak up. I saw Xuecheng's body, which had been placed in a freezer. The face was purple and swollen, as Kong Fa described it, and on the neck there were dark fingerprints, slim fingerprints, left by a woman. Seeing him like this, I'm 100% certain that he was indeed strangled alive. I took an exorcism talisman and tapped it on his brow, and in no time at all a peculiar necrotic aura erupted from his 7 orifices. This necrotic aura was not the aura that was normally found on dead corpses, but a mutated dead corpse aura. Obviously, this corpse aura was exactly what the murderer who victimized him had left on him, and it was basically certain that he had died at the hands of a dead corpse. The female corpse disappeared inexplicably last night, and Xuecheng died at the hands of a dead body, so it's no surprise that the murderer is that female corpse. As for why that female corpse wanted to kill Xuecheng, it was a bit of a mystery. I said before that Kong Fa and Zhao Yongjun have the same corpse chi. This corpse chi has nothing to do with other things, is related to the environment in which they work. The corpse chi in their body and the corpse chi from Xuecheng's 7 orifices is not the same thing. When I came out of the funeral parlor, Kong Fa came with his leader. "Venerable Master, this is my leader Qian Zimin, he wants to talk to you," Kong Fa politely said to me. "Venerable Master, let's take a step to talk." Qian Zimin immediately made a pleased gesture toward me. My eyes swept over Qian Zimin, a flash of color appeared in my eyes, and I nodded. Qian Zimin took me to the lounge not far away, made me a good tea, and gave me cigarettes were refused by me. "Venerable Master, Kong Fa and Xuecheng are really too much, they even violated the law to do such a thing. Xuecheng's death has nothing to do with the two of them violating the law," Qian Zimin said to me with an angry face. Kong Fa was at a loss for words, his face filled with trepidation as he opened his mouth to explain. I waved my hand at him and said, "Kong Fa, go out for a while, I'll have a chat with your leader." Kong sent out, and Qian Zimin and I were the only two left in the room. I said as I took a sip from my teacup. "Supervisor Qian, you're being unkind, using a good tea box for inferior tea. Are you looking down on me, or do you think I can't drink it?" An embarrassed look appeared on Qian Zimin's face, and he hurriedly replaced the cup of tea for me again. At the same time, the look of contempt in his eyes disappeared. "Supervisor Qian, you should know a lot of information about that female corpse that disappeared last night, right?" I asked lightly. A stunned look appeared on Qian Zimin's face as he looked at me in disbelief and asked, "Why would you say that, Mage? I'm in management, and with so many people coming to the crematorium every day, how can I possibly remember every single one of the dead?" Qian Zimin even had some angry colors on his face at the end of his words, as if he was dissatisfied that I misunderstood him. I said still calmly, "Supervisor Qian, it's just the two of us here. There are some things you shouldn't cover up, it won't do you any good." Qian Zimin's face sank as he jerked to his feet and raised his voice to ask, "Mage, what do you mean by that? Why do I hear you say that as if I had something to do with what happened last night?" I waved my hand at him, signaling him to sit down and not get excited. "Mage, you'd better set me straight, this is no joke," Qian Zimin said in a deep voice, his attitude already irritated up. I took a copper coin and played with it between my fingers, not slowing down. "Supervisor Qian, I'd just gone to see Shui Chang's body and found something on his body. He was indeed killed by that female corpse that disappeared last night. Hearing my words, Qian Zimin's face tightened, and his complexion obviously became a bit abnormal. The change in Qian Zimin's demeanor was all in my eyes as I continued. That female corpse had too much grievances, which led to a mutation after death, commonly known as a swindle. Evil creatures after swindling are brutal to the extreme, with only killing in their eyes. Shui Chang is a good example. Shui Chang is only the first to die. Next she will kill all those who had a grudge against her in life one by one, and the methods will be extremely cruel. As my words fell, Qian Zimin's face had turned pale, and bean-sized beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. I glanced at Qian Zimin and asked, "Supervisor Qian, let me ask you if you're afraid of a female corpse like this? While you were sleeping at night, she ran to your bedside and strangled you alive so that you didn't even have a chance to resist or struggle. I'll ask you, are you afraid or not?" Qian Zimin's body shook violently, his face barely squeezing out a smile that was even worse than crying. His tone was incomparably soft, and he whispered, "Mage, this shouldn't have anything to do with me, right? That female corpse shouldn't harm me." I looked at Qian Zimin again, shook my head and, "Stand up and get ready to leave. This guy is not on board at all, won't tell the truth, and I don't even want to talk to him if I didn't have something to find out. Would I be pulling so much crap with him for no reason?" Seeing that I was going to leave, Qian Zimin was a bit flustered and said hurriedly, "Mage, don't be angry, let's just sit down and talk again." I said with a sullen face, "I've already talked to you about what there is to talk about." Qian Zimin hastily squeezed out a smile on his face and laughed with him. "Mage, I just suddenly remembered something new about the situation that I'd like to talk to you about." Chapter 25, She Won't Let You Go. I resumed my seat. My eyes swept over Qian Zimin, and two words appeared in my mind at that moment: bitch. Tell you nicely, you don't say anything, you have to turn people's backs. I have limited time, so if you have to say something, say it quickly. I said with a sullen face, my attitude naturally not as polite as just now. Qian Zimin compensated with a smile. "Venerable, I just carefully recalled, I do have some knowledge of that female corpse." I didn't say a word, didn't even bother to despise him and let him talk himself down. Qian Zimin continued despite the embarrassment. "Venerable master, that female corpse is called Luo Qin. She seems to be 21 years old this year, and she works in a restaurant in Longjiang City. I've dated her before. She's a very smart girl, loves to sing, and doesn't usually spend much, just the occasional cosmetic or something like that." Seeing Qian Zimin getting more and more biased, I interjected at once. "Supervisor Qian, you said you had a relationship with this Luo Qin. By relationship, do you mean talking to her as a boyfriend and girlfriend?" A flash of embarrassment flashed across Qian Zimin's face as he whispered, "We did have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship for a while. It was consensual, I didn't force her, and we broke up peacefully about half a month ago." I heard his very contemptuous skimming. Qian Zimin are almost 50 years old, Luo Qin can be his daughter. They still talk about male and female friends. Qian Zimin, if there is no flowery language to deceive others, ghosts believe. Not only that, but I can see from Qian Zimin's facial features that he should be someone who is already married and has children. It's proper cheating to be in a relationship with someone's little girl when he has a wife and children. I heard that Luo Qin was killed. Does that have anything to do with you? I asked. Qian Zimin was like a dog whose tail had been stepped on, and said in a hurried and excited manner, "Mage, I had nothing to do with Luo Qin's death at all. I broke up with her peacefully, so how could I possibly still try to harm her? The police are already on the trail of the killer, and they haven't found him yet." I gave Qian Zimin a meaningful look. It's so sensitive that he reacted so strongly when I just made a casual remark. "Is there anything else you want to say to me?" I asked. "No, no more," Qian Zimin said, and as soon as the words left his mouth, he hurriedly added, "I remember, and one more thing. Luo Qin was killed 4 days ago in a rented house, and in the days leading up to her death, I would have nightmares at night about Luo Qin coming to take revenge on me, making it impossible for me to sleep every night. Immediately after that, Qian Zimin hurriedly explained. Mage, I swear, Luo Qin really didn't do this to me. Because she's been messing with my sleep for the past few days. When I learned that her body was coming to be cremated, I hurriedly urged Kong Fa to burn her, thinking that as long as she was burned to ashes, she shouldn't be able to come and haunt me at night. Qian Zimin added with a dejected face, who knew that this would happen. Venerable master, do you think Luo Qin will come to take revenge on me? You want the truth? I asked. Qian Zimin nodded vigorously. Of course he wanted to hear the truth. I made a counting gesture at him. Qian Zimin didn't hold back and immediately took out more than $1,000 from his wallet and gave it to me. I put the money away with peace of mind and looked at Qian Zimin and said in a serious tone. Supervisor Qian, there still has to be some bottom line and principles to be a human being. It's very immoral and hurtful for you, a man who has a wife and children, to be in a relationship with someone's little girl. Qian Zimin heard a burst of embarrassment here, and after the embarrassment is admiration. He did not expect me to see through that he has a wife and child. I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of resentment in Luo Qin. Xue Chang was killed by her just by touching her corpse. Do you think she will spare you, the one who has cheated on her feelings? I continued. Qian Zimin instantly went weak with fear and almost cried. Taking my hand tightly, he said. Mage, please help me. I have a wife and child in a relationship with her, which is really immoral on my part, but I'm not guilty of anything. Mage, I'm willing to pay you handsomely, please help me. 10 minutes later, I emerged from the room. I took Qian Zimin's money and promised to help him through. I had already promised Kong Fa that I would take care of Luo Qin even without Qian Zimin's request for help, and now I'm making an extra buck on the side, so why not? Cultivators also have to eat, drink and spend money, and I can't go robbing without money. Mage. Kong Fa was waiting for me outside, and when he saw me come out, he looked at me handily. I nodded at him and said. Your leader said that he won't hold you responsible anymore, and that Xue Chang's death has nothing to do with you. Kong Fa suddenly breathed a long sigh of relief and bowed to me repeatedly to express his gratitude. He thinks I put in a good word for Qian Zimin. The truth is that Qian Zimin said it himself, and I didn't say anything. Kong Fa took me to the crematorium. Just as he entered, a strong necrotic aura hit him. The necrotic aura was as intense as a volcanic storm in my perception. This situation is something that makes me frown straight away. It's not a good thing that all the corpse gas in this crematorium can't be drained out. Instantly an aura flashed in my mind and I whispered in my mind, winky face. Could it be that Luo Qin's sudden necrophilia is related to the corpse gas in the crematorium? Luo Qin suddenly turned necrotic. This thing is really evil and weird. It's reasonable to say that she wouldn't have gotten that way without a certain amount of excitement. Now that I felt the strong corpse aura of the crematorium, I had some understanding in my mind. Soon I saw some arrangements in the crematorium that would not be noticed by the general public. The place had once been set up by a mage, and a number of ghost-quelling talismans had been laid out, both explicitly and implicitly. Unfortunately, too much time had passed and the power of the ghost suppressor talisman was almost exhausted. It didn't take long for me to see a few corpse-suppressing talismans as well. Unfortunately, the power of the talismans were all completely exhausted, and there was no difference between having them and not having them. Luo Qin's necrophilia here is related to the exhaustion of the power of the corpse suppressor talisman. Mage, this is where Xue Chang and I hid the female corpse last night. Kong Fa said, pointing to a corner. I glanced at the corner and it dawned on me. It is certain that Luo Qin was indeed stimulated by the corpse gas here. The place where Kong Fa hid Luo Qin's body is very special. There is a corpse grave in this crematorium. In terms of the small world of the crematorium, the corpse demon cave is the equivalent of a gutter that releases water, and all the corpse chi from this place will converge there. Luo Qin was originally a horizontal death, and then by the impact of the huge corpse chi, it would be strange not to swindle the corpse. The fact that this kind of extreme coincidence can happen can only mean that it was predestined, and Luo Qin deserved to have a necrophilia. Knowing the reason for her necrophilia, the next step was to find a way to catch her quickly. Keeping her out there would surely wreak havoc on more people. Chapter 26, Mage, Help. Mage, what should we do next? I don't know where that female corpse has run off to. When will she come back to harm me? Kong Fa panicked inside and looked at me uneasily. I withdrew my gaze, reassuringly. Since this is something I've taken on, it's only natural that I'll help you get it done. I mulled it over a little and said. Tell you what, let's find a place to stay and wait for Luo Qin to come to you. What if she doesn't show up for a while? Kong Fa asked worriedly. This matter was definitely the quicker it was resolved the better. He didn't want to take too long, otherwise how would he live his life? She's bound to come. I said, confidently. If Luo Qin doesn't come to Kong Fa, she will definitely come to Qian Zimin. Qian Zimin had cheated her feelings, and Luo Qin couldn't bear this breath. There are two completely different emotions when a person dies and when a person lives. While alive she may not have realized this. After the swindle the issue becomes infinitely larger in her eyes, and revenge is inevitable. I called Qian Zimin over and told him about my idea. Qian Zimin nodded repeatedly. Mage, I have a place where we can go and hide. The place Qian Zimin was talking about was in a residential building not far from the crematorium, a house vacated by some relative of his. Kong Fa was puzzled that Qian Zimin had also come to hide and inquired. Supervisor, does this matter have anything to do with you? Why are you hiding too? Qian Zimin's face tightened and he quietly glanced at me. Seeing that I didn't say anything, he whispered to Kong Fa. I'm not your supervisor, I have to be responsible for you. In case if you are killed by a dead body, what if your wife comes to me for someone? Kong Fa was instantly moved and thanked Qian Zimin again and again, saying that he was a good leader. Qian Zimin's shameless words made me despise it. Once a person is shameless, there really is no lower limit. Qian Zimin was very good at enjoying himself, and had snacks and marinated meat brought in while he ate and drank and waited. It didn't take long for it to get dark, and the mood in the room was tense. Qian Zimin was very uncomfortable and hurriedly sat next to me. Mage, what if Luo Qin doesn't come? Qian Zimin asked worriedly. I didn't have the heart to say, what else can I do if I don't come? It's not like I can control her. Qian Zimin smiled sarcastically and asked again. Do you think Luo Qin will harm others outside? I said slowly, if you can't take care of yourself, why are you thinking about others? Take care of yourself first. There is no doubt that the risk exists of Celeste Law's corpse wandering around out there going to harm others. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm just one person, and I can't protect that many people by splitting them up. All I can do now is to protect these two people in front of me. The dark night was quiet, the moonlight hazy, and occasionally a few sharp, shrill catcalls rang out, frightening the two men in the room. A little bit of time passed and Luo Qin hadn't shown up yet. I was calm. Qian Zimin had been panicking, asking several times why Luo Qin hadn't come yet, and finally getting my irritation. It's just after 1 a.m. Suddenly, I felt a necrotic aura drifting into the house from outside. My eyes glazed over. Celeste Law was here. I glanced at Qian Zimin and Kong Fa. Both of those two were staring around with wide eyes, both holding wooden sticks in their hands for defense. After a few more minutes. Suddenly. Boom boom boom. A knock sounded at the door. That sudden knock on the door could scare Qian Zimin and Kong Fa so much that they almost screamed and looked at the door nervously. Boom boom boom. The knocking continued. Venerable master, is Luo Qin here? Qian Zimin asked me shakily. I said with some mischief. Just go open the door and see. Qian Zimin shrank backward in fear, shaking his head like a rattle drum, killing him and not daring to open the door. Kong Fa, why don't you go see who's knocking on the door, and I'll give you a raise. Qian Zimin egged Kong Fa on. Kong Fa was similarly shaking his head, where he dared to go. Who's knocking outside? I shouted, it's me. A woman's voice sounded outside. I didn't feel anything when I heard that voice, and I hadn't heard Luo Qin's voice before, so I didn't know if that was her. I noticed Qian Zimin's expression. His face was filled with consternation and shock, as if he had encountered something unbelievable. I asked him, "Is that Celeste Law's voice?" Qian Zimin shook his head and whispered, "That's not Celeste Law's voice, it's my wife's voice." Before I could speak, the woman outside spoke again. "Qian Zimin, you dog, son of a bitch, I know you're hiding in the house. You get your ass over here and open the door for me, or I'll burn this house down with a fire." Qian Zimin's face suddenly turned bitter as he whispered, "Honey, how did you find your way here this late at night? How did you know I was here? Where do you get off with all that crap? Just open the door." Qian Zimin's wife drank and scolded with an extremely harsh and forceful attitude. Qian Zimin is a famous wife, in front of his mother-in-law that is like a tortoise grandson. His face twitched and he didn't dare hide it any longer, sobbing as he went to open the door. "Venerable, how did his wife find her way here this late at night?" Kong Fa had the same question. I said meaningfully, "Just open the door and ask her." I moved a few steps and stood next to the gate and watched. Qian Zimin opened the door trembling, and there was indeed a woman standing outside the door. "Honey, how did you get like this?" Qian Zimin rubbed his eyes and asked with some confusion. When the woman looked up, Qian Zimin screamed at once. "You're not my wife. You're Celeste Law. Mage, help, Luo Qin is killing us." As Qian Zimin screamed, the woman outside the door had already made her move. She rushed straight into the house, probing out her miserable white palms and fiercely grabbing at Qian Zimin's neck. On her fingers were nails as black as knives, nails that could easily cut through a person's flesh and blood vessels. Qian Zimin was dying of fear, screaming hysterically, "Mage, help me!" That where is what Qian Zimin's wife, obviously is that dead body mutation Luo Qin deliberately pretend to Qian Zimin's wife's voice to deceive him only. I wasn't the least bit surprised by this scene, everything was as I expected. As Luo Qin's claws were about to grab Qian Zimin, I violently probed my hand and pinched Qian Zimin's collar, throwing him off. Luo Qin lost her target and was very angry, and a strong corpse aura surged out from her. With a growl, she jumped up from the ground and lunged at me with her teeth and claws. Chapter 27, I'm Feng Daodu, the master of Maoshan. Luo Qin's appearance scared both Qian Zimin and Kong Fa silly. They were cowering in the corner, shivering, the sticks in their hands long since dropped. They had previously discussed that if Luo Qin wanted to kill them, they would pick up their sticks and fight back. Results. Straight away, his legs went weak with fear. Looking at the pouncing Luo Qin, my eyes narrowed slightly. Luo Qin's clothes were stained with blood, so it seemed that she had already harmed someone before coming here, and should have gone to avenge her murder. Her cheeks turned a greenish color, as if she had been painted with a layer of green paint. Her neck was a bloody mess, and her throat had been slit, a fatal wound she had sustained while alive. It had been a few days now, and there was still black blood dripping from her wounds. She looked scary, but that didn't scare me. She had absorbed a lot of corpse chi in the crematorium, and at this time, her body's aura was very unusual, as if she had practiced for more than 10 years. I flipped my palm, a corpse-quelling talisman in my hand, ready to wait for her to pounce a little closer before striking. Luo Qin lunged closer, and I was about to slap the corpse-quelling talisman out of the way when, suddenly, there was a yell from the door. "Bold demon, how dare you harm people here, looking for death?" As the words rang out, a long whip lashed over. The long whip swung like a spiritual snake, accurately curling around Luo Qin's neck. The long whip pulls hard. It pulled Luo Qin backward and flew out, hitting the ground heavily. The scene happened so suddenly that I looked a little confused. I looked at the corpse-suppressing talisman in my hand that I hadn't tapped out and put it away. A youth walked in, holding a long whip in his hand, and it was him who had struck just now. I sized up the youth, a glint in my eye. The youth was 23 or 24 years old, rather thin, giving the impression of a bamboo pole. The youth's costume is a bit of a misnomer. He was wearing a grey Taoist robe, which also had a bagua pattern printed on it. He had short hair in the front of his forehead, but in the back of his head it was long and in pigtails. There were also compasses, bagua mirrors, copper bells, and other magic weapons hanging from his waist. This person gave me an extremely strange feeling. In my senses, he was not a cultivator, instead, he was somewhat like a street gangster. Luo Qin also seemed to be confused by the youth's appearance, lying on the ground without moving. The youth came out with an egotistical, heroic feeling, and with his hands behind his back, he looked around at us, then coughed softly and said slowly, "Don't be afraid, I am the Maoshan Venerable Master Feng Bold. With our bold mage here, a mere evil corpse is no big deal. You guys, it's safe." I once again looked at this Maoshan Dharma Master Feng Bold and said in a serious tone, "Then I would like to thank Venerable Feng Bold. This woman is fierce, so please be careful, Venerable." Feng Bold waved his hand at me and laughed. "Young man, just put your heart in your mouth. My party has boldly walked the world for more than 10 years, and the evil ghosts and evil spirits we have captured do not number 1,000, but 500, so we can deal with a mere evil corpse without a problem. Mage Bull." I gave Feng Bold a thumbs up and then he quietly retreated to the corner and stayed with Qian Zimin and the others. Qian Zimin hurriedly whispered to me, "Venerable Master, is this Maoshan Feng Bold Venerable Master okay? Just watch." I blurted it out. Feng Bold enjoyed this feeling of being in the spotlight, and he was about to blow off some steam suddenly. Ho! Luo Qin let out a hiss and leapt up violently from the ground. She was as fast as lightning. Feng Bold's eyes widened as he rebuked loudly, "Bold demon, how dare you show your wildness in front of my Maoshan Venerable Master, I'll kill you in the town." As Feng Bold shouted angrily, he once again shook his long whip, trying to throw Luo Qin to the ground. Who knew that Luo Qin didn't move and stared menacingly at Feng Bold. Feng Bold gritted his teeth and exerted his entire body's strength, but still failed to move Luo Qin by a single bit. Bold feels a little humiliated down here, and all of us guys are looking at him for his heroics. Feng Daodu's face flashed with a touch of shame and annoyance, his hands formed a Dharma seal, his mouth gibbered, and finally yelled, "Mani Padme Hum." When I heard him shout this truth, a stunned look appeared on my face. Then I covered my face and couldn't bear to watch. Luo Qin didn't have the slightest reaction to Feng Bold's maneuver, and she even had a disdainful smile on her face. Luo Qin reached out and grabbed the whip, slamming it hard. "Ah!" This Maoshan Venerable Master Feng boldly exclaimed in shock, and when he didn't stand still, he was directly thrown out by Luo Qin. Kong Fa exclaimed, "Venerable Bold Feng, be careful." Feng Bold endeavored to right his posture in the air, and finally escaped the nightmare of being dropped on his ass. Feng Bold face skin a burst of open red, "This fucking is really too humiliating, all lost to the grandmother's house." At the same time, he was a bit scared in his heart and exclaimed, "My mom, this evil corpse seems to be very powerful, am I playing a big game?" Luo Qin didn't care what Feng Daodu was thinking, roared angrily and frantically lunged at him. Seeing such a ferocious Luo Qin, Feng Bold panicked in his heart and yelled out, "Mom!" He panicked and slammed the bagua, compass, and copper bell on his belt at Luo Qin. None of those things of his had been enlightened, they weren't even considered magic weapons, so how could Luo Qin be afraid? Luo Qin instantly rushed to Feng Bold and gave him a hideous smile. Feng Bold felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, his entire body was cold, and he forgot to dodge as he stood there. I shook my head helplessly, "Without that diamond, what are you pretending to be, a Maoshan mage? It will kill you." When Feng Bold saw the sharp claws that were getting closer and closer to him, he closed his eyes in despair and shouted in his heart, "It's over, I, Feng Bold, have overplayed my hand today." Next Feng Bold felt a spinning of the heavens and earth, and when he opened his eyes again, he found that he had already left his original position and was several meters away from Luo Qin. With a flick of my wrist, I retracted the red rope wrapped around Feng Bold's waist. I looked back at him and intoned, "Brothers, next time rub your eyes a little brighter and pick a worse evil spirit before you go and pretend to be a pussy. Don't flip the car again, it will kill you." Fong Bold was greatly embarrassed, his cheeks reddened as if they were on fire, and he couldn't wait to find a crack in the wall to drill into. Ho! Rosin was upset that I had interfered with her attack again, and with a growl, she lunged at me ferociously. Fong Bold exclaimed nervously. Dude, run, the evil corpse is pouncing. I grinned at Fong Bold, turned around violently, and slapped a yellow talisman at Luo Qin. Corpse suppressor amulet. The body-subduing talisman blossoms with light. It was like a stream of light that snapped and suppressed Luo Qin's brow. Chapter 28, I Want to Be Your Friend. Luo Qin's speed was still slower, and he was instantly slapped squarely by my corpse suppressor talisman. Ho! Luo Qin roared with unwillingness and fought against the power of the corpse suppressor talisman with all his might. Her body shifted and, in the end, snap. Very unwillingly, he slammed to the ground. Even though she had absorbed the corpse energy from the crematorium, her mana was somewhat unimpressive. But in the end, it couldn't carry the power of the corpse suppressor talisman. A single talisman suppressed her. Fong Bold stared blankly at Luo Qin, who was suppressed on the ground. Somewhat dumbfounded, he muttered, "Is it that simple?" I smiled at his words and didn't say anything. The next second, Fong Bold seemed to have discovered some new continent, as if he had discovered it, his eyes staring at me with fire. I glared at him, not in a good way. "Why are you staring at me like that? I'm not interested in men." Fong Bold had a thick skin and didn't feel any embarrassment at all. He laughed. Hey, man, no, bro, you're awesome. Brother, where are you practicing? Introduce myself, I'm Fong Bold, a disciple of Mao Shan. I looked at him with a serious face and asked in a deep voice. You're a Mao Shan disciple? Of course, I'm a genuine Mao Shan disciple. Fong Bold said very loudly. When he met my gaze, his voice faded to a whisper. My family lives at the foot of Mao Shan Mountain. Is it a problem for me to humbly call myself a disciple of Mao Shan? For Fong Bold, this modest address makes me very speechless. If he is not modest, then it is not to be addressed as Mao Shan ancestor? Seeing that they had subdued Luo Qin, Qian Zimin and Kong Fa hurriedly ran over and looked at me with excited faces. Celeste Law has been tackled, which means they're safe. Mage, what's next? Qian Zimin asked. I glanced down at Luo Qin, who was looking at me with a resentful face, and frowned. There was a moment of silence before he said, I'll talk to her first. I crouched down beside Luo Qin and said, Luo Qin, you've already been suppressed by my corpse suppressor talisman, so don't waste your efforts in vain in trying to break free. I know you died unjustly, people can't come back from the dead, and you shouldn't think about coming back from the dead. You've gotten a lot of people killed, and it's time for the resentment in your heart to dissipate. Luo Qin was suppressed by me, she couldn't scream or roar, she could only look at me with spiteful eyes. I continued. Ashes to ashes, since you are dead, you should go where you belong. You've made enough of a scene too, will you dissipate the resentment in you on your own, or do you want me to do it? Celeste Law growled silently. Her heart was filled with 3,000 fires of anger, wanting to slaughter all the negative people in the world. Nah, she couldn't do anything now. A few moments later. A growl rang out from Rosin's body, I hate it. Immediately afterward, a wave of gray air rushed up from the top of her head as she dispersed her own resentment. I pointed my hand and sword fingers at the corpse-suppressing talisman in the air, and the talisman instantly burned to ashes. This matter, it ends here. I said. Qian Zimin breathed a long, ecstatic sigh of relief and kept thanking me. I warned with a look full of meaning at him. It is better to do more good in life, and to be struck by lightning if you do too many things that are lacking in virtue. Qian Zimin hurriedly nodded his head in assurance. Venerable Master, you can rest assured that from now on, I will definitely do more good deeds and will definitely not do anything unethical. I didn't pay any more attention to Qian Zimin. Some things are done when they're done, and it's too late to make amends. I probably saw some of Qian Zimin's fortunes, and in the coming year, he will have a great disaster of life and death. And that catastrophe was caused by the evil that was planted today. I looked over at Kong Fa and said, "Uncle, there are many lucrative jobs, you don't have to be in a crematorium. What I say is on point, if he can hear it, he can hear it, if he can't that's his life. You take Luo Qin's body back to the crematorium, what you want to do with it is your business." With that I turned to leave. When I walked to the door, I suddenly remembered something and looked back at Qian Zimin and said, "There's something wrong with the feng shui pattern of that crematorium of yours, and if it's not dealt with, something big will definitely happen in the next year. Tell whoever you're doing the work for that if you want to put an end to this problem, you can come to me and I'll give you a discounted rate." I didn't wait for Qian Zimin to answer and left in stride. That Maoshan disciple, Fong Bold, also hurriedly followed out, right behind me. I looked back at him, not in a good mood. "The road is so wide, why are you following me?" Fong Bold had a thick skin and grinned a hefty grin. "Brother, where are you going this late at night? I want to treat you to a late-night snack, to thank you for saving my life just now." "Don't use it," I blurted out. "Hey, you don't let me treat you to dinner, it's not bad to get to know each other. All brothers are brothers within the 4 Cs, more friends have more paths," Fong boldly said again in a hurry. "I don't need to be friends with you," I said, moving on. Fong Bold didn't get angry and hurried after me, chattering in my ear. "Brother, I see that your Dao is so high, how come in Feng Shui Xian men from coming in have not heard of you this number of characters? Brother, my family lives at the foot of Maoshan Mountain, are you a disciple of Maoshan Mountain or a senior disciple of Longhu Mountain? Brothers." I feel like this Fong Bold is a chatterbox. He followed me closely for half an hour, during which time he was chattering in my ear. And he went on uninterrupted for half an hour without repeating a word. Despite the fact that I ignored him for a single word, he maintained his usual enthusiasm and played deadpan to the hilt. I felt something in this guy that I didn't have in me, and I certainly couldn't do what he did if I were him. I stopped and looked at him with a sullen face. Fong Bold heatedly laughed. "Brother, you're finally willing to pay attention to me. I said the first time I saw you, I felt a connection with you, let's make friends. You want to be my friend?" I looked at him with a smirk. "Yeah, make friends." Fong Bold nodded his head like a chicken pecking at rice. "Tell you what, if you keep up with me, we'll make friends. If you can't keep up, it's proof that we're not meant for each other," I said. "Okay, let's make a deal, I can definitely keep up with you," Fong Bold said with a look of delight, his face full of confidence. "Then you can follow it." I flashed him a meaningful smile before striding forward. The thing that made Fong Dao dumbfounded happened. I was walking at a fast pace, and in the blink of an eye I was already 100 meters away. Fong Bold shouted strangely and spread his legs to run wildly. Despite Fong's bold and frantic run, he was never able to keep up with me, and in no time at all I had lost him. It was still light when I got home, and I glanced behind me at the emptiness and smiled. I grew up with no one else wanting to play with me except my mom. A friend? The word is too far away for me, all that is just a flower in a mirror, a moon in the water. Just like that bold Fong, how can he be my friend if he can't catch up with me? The next day, I did my homework before opening the door. When I had just opened the door, a joyful laugh sounded through the door. "Hey man, I caught up with you." Chapter 29, I'm not afraid. I was aghast to hear that voice, not at all prepared for it. Even without seeing the person, I knew who it was by the voice alone. I asked, looking at Fong Bold, who was standing outside the door. "How did you find this place?" Fong Bold fluttered his hair flirtatiously, and said in a very narcissistic tone. "Of course it is to follow your pace to catch up. I said I want to make friends with you, well, I keep my word." I scrutinized Fong Bold. He locked eyes with me, and scowled at me. He was a little tired, but his eyes were bright. When I noticed his face, I was a little surprised. Fong Bold's face is actually an extremely rare white tiger hidden dragon. This person should be destined to hide great fortune. There are very few people with the white tiger and hidden dragon face. If you have to say the number, it's 1 in 10 million. This kind of person, if he follows the right path, will surely become a great man someday. Did you really come after me? I asked. Fong Bold scratched his head and laughed heatedly. Dude, you're walking really fast, I can't keep up. I went back and asked the man in that house, and the man in that house told me where you lived, and I looked for you. The corner of my mouth curved up slightly. This guy's mind was pretty sharp and honest. Come in, I said, sidestepping my body to make way. Fong Bold was ecstatic and grinned. Thanks a lot, brother. No, thanks boss, you're my boss from now on. I bristled. This guy was a couple years older than me, and he had no problem calling himself an older man. I sat down in the eunuch's chair and he moved a small bench to sit in front of me, staring at me intently. Why are you looking at me like that? I asked. Boss, I want to follow you around, to cut down demons, and do chivalrous deeds. Fong Bold exclaimed, his eyes filled with fire. I laughed. I'm just trying to make a living, I can't afford such a big word as chivalry. Fong Bold didn't care and smiled and said, then it's okay to cut down the demons and remove the devils. Aren't you a Maoshan mage? Why do you need to follow me when you can go it alone? I asked. Fong Bold was a bit embarrassed and whispered. Boss, Maoshan Venerable Master, that's just a random nickname I made up myself, don't take it seriously. It's true that my family lives at the foot of Maoshan Mountain, but people weren't willing to take me in, so I just had to come out on my own. Oh, so that's it, tell your story. I said slowly. Fong Bold immediately rattled off his story. The name Fong Bold was also given to him by himself, and his real name was actually Fong Ho. A very ambitious name. He said his father wanted him to grow up to be a lord of the land. Unfortunately, his father was a pig killer and he grew up with him. At the age of 20, he suddenly became interested in the Taoist priests on Maoshan Mountain and wanted to go up to the mountain to worship and practice. As a result, when he went up to the mountain to pay homage to his master, Maoshan said that he had a heavy killing spirit and was not suitable for cultivation, and drove him down. He thought it was his father who made him kill too many pigs, and that's why he couldn't go to Maoshan to cultivate, for which he had a big fight with his father and ran away from home. His father went to great lengths to find him and persuade him to go back. After 2 more years of killing pigs at home, his heart for Maoshan's ability to eliminate demons and devils not only didn't diminish, but instead grew stronger. He was really tired of killing pigs, so he threw away the pig-killing knife and swore to his father that he would never kill a pig again from now on. He didn't want to be a pig killer for the rest of his life, he wanted to do something he wanted to do. This time his father did not force him again, gave him a savings, let him go out to wander, told him if at any time he felt that the future is hopeless, go back to continue to kill pigs. He wandered outside for 2 years. Fong Ho said with an exasperated look on his face. Thinking about our party, how can a 9-foot man be a pig killer for the rest of his life? Even if I had to go pick up rags on the side of the road, I'd never go back to killing pigs. When I heard Fong Ho's experience, I felt something in my heart. Time has proved that this guy still has perseverance and dreams in his heart, otherwise he couldn't have wandered out for 2 years without going home, and his initial heart has remained unchanged. Fong Ho eyed me and said, Boss, I'm really persistent and persevering, I definitely won't drag my feet with you, just let me follow you. I asked after a moment of silence. You've been wandering around for 2 years, I'm sure you've met a lot of people, why do you just have to follow me? Fong Ho hemmed and hawed and scratched his head and said, I don't know why, but when I saw you, I thought you were the man of my destiny, so I wanted to follow you. Fong Ho was rarely a bit shy, and his gaze was sincere. In my heart, but I understand his feelings, he is the face of the white tiger hidden dragon, with the general public is very different, the sixth sense is very strong, this is a kind of fate in the underworld to guide him. Why were you suddenly there last night? I asked again. Last night I was supposed to be wandering around outside when I suddenly came across that evil corpse victimizing people in one of the courtyards. So I quietly followed her, wanting to see where she was going and see if there was a chance to deal with her, and I didn't expect to run into you guys. Feng Ho hurriedly said that what happened last night was a complete coincidence. I nodded. If I'm not mistaken, the person Luo Qin victimized last night would be the one who killed her, and she was taking revenge. Boss, just let me follow you. If I become a burden to you, I won't need you to say anything, I'll leave you myself. Feng Ho said once more, sincerely. Instead of immediately agreeing, I said leisurely. I'm an ominous man, you'll have bad luck if you follow me, aren't you afraid? I'm not afraid. Feng Ho blurted out without even thinking, I think boss is the nobleman in my life, I believe my feeling can't be wrong. I'm not afraid even if it's doom and gloom, I hate living a life of nothing, I want to do something I like to do. My heart warmed, this was the first stranger in 18 years who was willing to approach me. I extended my palm to him and smiled, since you're not afraid of death, follow me. Feng Ho was ecstatic, grinning broadly, holding my hand tightly, and exclaiming. Boss, people always die in this life, if we can live the life we want, what's the fear of dying? Well said. I laughed out loud. Feng Ho laughed along with him. Our laughter was loud and clear. Right at this moment, my Tao was actually climbing rapidly. Feeling the change in my Tao, I was ecstatic in my heart and couldn't believe it. I actually got promoted just like that, I'm now a 6th stage yellow rank mage. Chapter 30, 6th stage yellow rank mage. The moment I agreed to Feng Ho making friends with me, my cultivation level advanced straight away, from the 5th to the 6th stage, and it was still the peak of the 6th stage, just a little bit short of entering the 7th stage. It's a big step up. I didn't do anything but promise Feng Ho to be my friend, that's all. Feeling the promotion of the Tao, I sighed in my heart. Worthy of being a white tiger hidden dragon, possessing great luck, even I am tainted with luck. There is no doubt that I will benefit greatly from being friends with Feng Ho. And obviously I took advantage of it, and he will help me a lot in my future cultivation. Underworldly chi is the rarest of things to be found. I smiled and patted Feng Ho's shoulder. My name is Ding Lin, you look like a skinny monkey, so I'll call you Monkey from now on. Feng Ho, oh, Monkey grinned, heh he. Boss, that's what everyone in my family calls me, it makes me feel extra friendly. I laughed, we're not that far apart in age, and you shouldn't call me boss, it sounds weird, we're on equal footing, so you can just call me Old Lin. Okay, Old Lin. We both looked at each other and laughed. Monkey, I've got a big enough place here, so feel free to find yourself a room. Never be polite to me, just make yourself at home. I said. Monkey had some work to do and got himself settled. Soon I found out another good thing about the monkey, the guy cooks pretty good, a dozen times better than me, I'm in for a treat. After a day with him, he's quite attached to my liking. Being cheeky all day, like I have no heart, adds to my joy. We both joked and played with each other with no problems at all. In the monkeys, I began to feel the joy of having friends. Monkey asked me if he wanted to change his hair for fear of embarrassing me. I laughed and said, his look is quite good, there is personality, we are all young people, there is no need to get so rigid, how to have fun, how to come is. After another day, someone came to the door. At a glance, it was actually Qian Zimin. When Qian Zimin saw that the monkey was here, he was slightly stunned and curious. Venerable Feng Bold, you're here too. The monkey coughed softly and said in a serious manner. I'm cutting a deal with Venerable Ding, what's your business? Qian Zimin hurriedly took a red envelope and handed it to me with a grateful face. Mage, I came all the way here to thank you for saving my life. I wasn't polite and took the red envelope and casually handed it to the monkey with a light smile. You don't have to be so courteous, I'm taking money from someone to help someone out, we don't owe anyone anything. Qian Zimin smiled and lowered his voice to tell me something else. He said that Celeste Luo was still out there that night and killed the very person who killed her. The murderer who killed Luo Qin was no other than one of her cousins. The monkey was furious at hearing this and cursed. That woman's cousin is a real piece of work, he can't even lay his hands on his cousin, he's just an animal. Seeing that Qian Zimin still had no intention of leaving, the monkey asked, Do you still seek out Venerable Master Ding for anything? Qian Zimin nodded and looked at me and whispered. Mage, can you give me an amulet? No, not for, I'm buying an amulet from you. Qian Zimin looked at me with longing. He had seen my ability and was convinced by me, and wanted to ask for an amulet to keep him safe. The monkey looked at me, then said loudly to Qian Zimin. Mr. Qian, right, this, you do not understand it, amulets that can be given to just anyone, that need to bear karma, no. Don't you talk to me about money, you can't buy that stuff with money. I laughed in my mind, the monkey knew me well, that's what I meant. I have disdain for Qian Zimin's behavior, he is about to get his comeuppance, how can I give the amulet to him? Qian Zimin looked at me pitifully, and I said with a serious face. The amulet is not for sale. Qian Zimin sighed and could only stop. He concluded, Venerable Master, I've already told the boss about the crematorium, and the boss takes this matter very seriously. He said that he'll come to talk to Venerable Master in a couple of days. I nodded and didn't say anything. I can't go begging in business. Come if you like, don't come. Seeing that I had no intention of talking to him more, Qian Zimin said a few polite words and left. A monkey can't be my helper without some skill. He had been killing hogs at home for years, and was much stronger than the average man because he was a pig killer before. The killing aura in his body was heavier than the average person, and he could innately restrain some ghosts and demons. He wandered outside for 2 years to develop a pair of mouths, can speak well, and can do to see people talk about people and see ghosts talk about ghosts. That's something I don't have and just makes up for my shortcomings. As for those other skills of fooling people and ghosts, they are negligible. Cultivation at his age would take a long time, and that would be unrealistic, so I taught him some boxing and kicking skills, and especially trained him in footwork, which is the ability to escape. If you can't beat them, you can run away, and that's a good way to have a piece of capital to save your life. Monkeys are smart in the head, and they can also take a beating, and I was satisfied that I knew what I was teaching in a few tries. 2 more days. On this day, I was reading at home and Monkey was practicing his chi in the yard. It didn't take long for Monkey to bring in a woman. Old Lin, her name is Feng Jingjing, she is the daughter of Feng Baokai from that crematorium, and said she wanted to talk to you about the crematorium. I put down the book and glanced at Feng Jingjing with a flash of color in my eyes. Without moving, he asked, Ms. Feng, you're looking for me to talk about the crematorium? Feng Jingjing is a woman who looks 27 or 18 years old, does not look good, but is dressed up in a flamboyant manner, and her body is sprayed with very strong perfume. She was the one who looked unconcerned, chewing gum in her mouth and looking at me with some contempt. She stared at me and asked, You're that mage of some sort? Is it real or fake? It shouldn't be a scam, right? There are a lot of scammers these days. Before I could say anything, the monkey was not happy. His face sank and his words were a little cold. How do you talk? Do you know the rules? You're here to ask the mage for an errand, you need to put on a respectful attitude. Who are you showing it to with a big grin? If you question the mage's abilities in your heart, then what are you doing here? Monkey's words were a big knot in my mind, and they were so damn well said. If you don't believe me, what are you doing here?